Welcome this afternoon to another edition of the Giro d'Italia. Recanati to Rocca di Cambio today, stage 7, 205 kilometers in length. It does finish up a hill today, but it's not a particularly steep one, averaging about 5.6 kilometers. This was the rollout this morning. Matt Goss rolling out with this is a recap of yesterday's stage, sorry. The first person to retire from the race yesterday was Romain Feliu. Feliu says he's suffering from allergies and just not feeling too good. And also Thor Hushovd leaving the race as well, citing fatigue. The man who was the star of the day undoubtedly was Rubiano. Rubiano is a Colombian rider riding for Androni. Chasing him down the Capello climb yesterday was Pablo Lastas, just overcooked it on a corner, crashing very heavily, broken collarbone, damaged shoulder blade and 5 ribs, we understand, as well. Well, it was a tough day yesterday. The breakaway containing Adriano Malori and Benedetti, Cesare Benedetti, still chasing on after this man, Rubiano, who went with about 50k to go and just plugged away. He said afterwards he was worried about the riders coming up behind him. But even on the steepest of days, he did a very, very good stage. It was clear from about 25 kilometers out that Rubiano was going to take the stage victory, and a fine individual ride it was in 5 hours 38:30. But the big battle was behind for the pink jersey with Malori and Golash, the Pole, riding for Omega Pharma Lotte. Just Quick Step Omega Pharma, sorry, just fighting it out for the bonus seconds to see who would take the pink jersey. Fine individual jersey, but Malori, the man who was Lanterne Rouge last year, is now the leader of the Giro d'Italia.
Yeah, that's the greatest day of my life. It was a very, very hard stage. I am entering in the good escape. I was lucky that the other riders on the escape has worked with me since on the arrive, so I can keep the pink jersey from Rubiano.
Was it planned this morning you to go to the escape to defend, to work for the team?
Yeah, the plan was that I have to enter in the escape for to be a point of the point for help to Michele and Damiano. But when I saw that the escape can arrive, I have worked at full gas, and that's all.
Well, yesterday, Mark Cavendish and a number of other riders really suffering to get home within the time limit. This is the group. It's got Theo Bossett, as you can see. Bernard Eyes looking absolutely cooked as well here, coming into the finish. And this group also contained Taylor Phinney in the end, coming home at the same time, and Cavendish leading them home. Malori leads then by 15 seconds over Michael Golash, then Ryder Hesjedal, whose Garmin Barracuda team left it a bit too late yesterday to try and push the pace to take the pink jersey, and Malori takes it over. That could be a good thing, that could not be a good thing. Here's where we are today then. Running from Recanati back in towards the spine of Italy, just clipping the edge of the mountains, Pennines down the centre, and ending up today. We come back out again after San Felice at Rocca di Cambio. Twisting and turning, another long stage, 205 kilometres. Uphill finish, looks bad, not quite as steep as some of the ones that are going to come a bit later on. Well, Adriano Malori is in the middle of this shot in the Italian time trial champions vest. A terrific ride by him. They are very, very strong indeed, with Damiano Cunego and with Scarponi looking very good. Well, we work well together with two leaders, says Cunego. The unity sort of gives us some sort of strength. In the final week in the mountains, I think we can do some pretty good things together to make our rivals fear us. The team is very, very strong, says Michele Scarponi. Me and Damiano are two captains of the team. Obviously, I target the general classification, but Damiano is the one who's riding really well at the moment. He will be close to me, and I'm sure the two of us will manage something pretty good in the Giro. Well, they are actually riding pretty well, especially Damiano Cunego. This is Roberto Damiani, the DS of Lampre. Well, the race is going to speak for itself, to be honest. The head and the legs will have to answer if you want to dominate the race. The history of cycling is full of rivalries and dualities within a team, but we must be able to perform with two men and use them as an additional weapon for our team, which is Cunego's been in this sort of situation before. And a French journalist asking, are you and Damiano Cunego friends? Well, yeah, colleagues and friends. And who's the best? Says Philippe Sillier. We're the same, says Scarponi. Very tactful. Sign on this morning. Giovanni Visconti. Pippo Pozzato, who said he wanted to do something yesterday and it didn't pan out for him. Joaquim Rodríguez. Michele Scarponi. Still one of the leading favourites for this year's Giro d'Italia. Cunego alongside him, who indeed is riding very well. And there is the new pink jersey, Adriano Malori. Starting this morning just before midday local time. And four riders getting away in a break. This is Gianni Meersman, another retiree today. Meersman, who had a fall in Denmark and is clearly suffering because of that. And yesterday was a hard day. Meersman retiring from the Giro d'Italia. First of the retirees today. It's hot weather once again, hardly a breath of wind out on the course. The four men who've gone away in a break are Fumiaki Beppu of Orica Greenedge, Matteo Rabottini of Farnese Vini, Reto Hollenstein of Team Netap, and Mirko Salvaggi of Vacansoleil. 71 kilometres. Just under 8 minutes is the gap between our four breakaway men and that man there, Adriano Malori in the pink jersey. Remember that for the rest of his life. It was a right old scrap yesterday to see if he could get it. It was a really good stage yesterday. It's like doing my head in doing the maths towards the end, but that's the way of it. Not often you get that these days, and I really enjoyed the stage. Good on Rubiano as well. Shouldn't take anything away from him. Wonderful, wonderful win for the Colombian from Gianni Savio's Androni team. Thank you for joining us wherever you are. We've got Penzance and somebody in Penzance writing in, and Shropshire and Herefordshire and London and all over the shop. And abroad, no doubt. Oh, Neath as well, I noticed. But there are two Italians in this breakaway, a Japanese rider and Reto Hollenstein from the NetApp team, German rider, and it's a fairly international field now. That is something that's happened to the Giro d'Italia over the last few years, Sean. Not that long ago, 25 years ago, when really this race, well, even less than that actually, was the preserve of the Italians. They really did target the Giro d'Italia, and it was a huge honour to win the Giro d'Italia. And many of them never really stepped outside of that parameter. They didn't try much for the Tour de France or much for the Vuelta of Spain. This is the race they wanted to win. But now we've got very few Italians really over in the overall numbers.
Well, I think with the UCI rules now has changed things a lot, and the teams, you have to qualify to get into this race, and then you get the wild cards, of course, where before I think all the Italian teams that were capable of getting around in the Tour of Italy were able to get in here, and that's not the case. We see Acqua Saponi, they didn't get into the race this year, and they're quite a good team, but they didn't get an invitation, although the riders they have in the team, I think they're very capable of doing well in this race and winning stages, but that is the rule, and that's the way it is. And I suppose when you look at all races as well, it's totally changed the last 15-20 years. Like the number of nationalities you have now in teams, it's just amazing. And when you look at the start list of this Tour of Italy, like 22 teams and 37 nationalities and 198 riders, 58 Italians, then 19 Spaniards, 15 Belgians, 13 French, 7 Australians, and it goes on from there. 7 from the Netherlands, 7 Polish, 6 Swiss. And when you look at that and you go further on down, 5 from Britain, 4 from the US, and like if you go back 15-20 years ago,
would never have happened,
it would never have happened. And I remember in my early days when I was riding in the beginning of the 80s, if you're riding in the bunch and there was somebody talking English behind you in the peloton, you would look around to see who it is. Where now when you go to the race, and when we go to the start of the race, like English, it's such a normal thing to hear English being spoken everywhere.
Yeah, English has become the de facto language of the peloton now, because a lot of teams insist that that English is the first language now rather than French. There'll always be French, for example, like FDJ Big Mat with Mark Cavendish will never ever take on English as a first language. It's just one of those things. Lampre will have Italian as their first language and they'll never take on anything else. But BMC, for example, registered in the United States with a mixture of nationalities. Hulshoff, Norwegian, of course, speaks extremely good English. Balan from Italy, Frank from Switzerland. Oh, by the way, sorry, to Reto Hollenstein, Swiss, isn't he, not German. Taylor Phinney, an American. Pinotti, Italian. Sant'Ambrogio and Santa Amita, both Italian. Chop, Swiss. They insist that the language of the team is English, and that certainly wouldn't have happened 20 years ago. Right, quick. Who's going to be the first one to tweet who's the only Costa Rican in the race? That would be interesting. I wonder how many seconds that will take for somebody to put that through. Here's the head of the race. Why are we talking about all these things that are around the edge of the Giro d'Italia? Because nothing much is happening. Yep, with 68.7 kilometres to go, it's still 7 minutes and 42 seconds. They don't seem to be particularly worried about it, Sean. I've got a feeling that they maybe they'll be a little bit happy to just let these guys go. And Hollenstein, the Swiss rider, he's a very big chap. He's not a climber so much there. He's liable to be looking at something close to the pink jersey if they just keep rolling along as they are at the moment.
Looking at the moment, it looks good for the breakaway, but again, it's so difficult to calculate, and when you're not in there, with the teams, and to know the riders, know the teams, the riders they have out in front, it's such a calculation. And I ask myself sometimes, how can they work it out so well? When you look at 7:40 with 68 k's to go, I think it's still controllable. It looks like that Lampre are going to continue on riding, and they feel that they will be able to take it back enough in the final. And they will probably be expecting as well other teams to probably get involved in this chase. And really, as we come to the last climb of the day, there's a lot of flat section, with 50 kilometres to go. So there's probably 30 kilometres of a very flat section before the final climb, and that's where the bunch can just really eat into the advantage of the breakaway. And we can see the 4 breakaway out in front as well. I think they are starting to suffer and they're tired out there. The conditions, the warm conditions over the last number of days, when you ride for 56 kilometres out in front, you start to feel it, and the energy levels start to drop very quickly. And I think all that calculation is being made by the teams, and especially by Lampre. And it looks like that, they feel that they're going to be able to pull this one back enough in the final. NetApp
had a good couple of days, Sean. They needed to show, having been invited to the Giro d'Italia, they needed to show something. They had Cesare Benedetti yesterday in the breakaway. They've got Reto Hollenstein in the breakaway today. And all those little things that pop up on the screen to say virtual Rosa, virtual leader on the roads. They'll all help in their cause to keep that team expanding and their finances stable and so forth. It's very important to them. They've had a good couple of days.
They've had a really good couple of days. When you look at the breakaways, like they've had a man in the breakaways every day, and to do that, it's a real difficult task, and you need riders in good shape, because at the beginning of the race, to get into the breakaway, there's a lot of attacking, and to get off the front of the bunch, you have to ride very fast, so you have to be in good shape. And when you look at some of the other teams, there's a lot of teams there I think would certainly have been trying, because they don't have some one for the general classification, and they are definitely going to try and make it into breakaways. And you could pick out a number of them there that haven't been successful. So for NetApp to get into the race, first of all, I think there'll be a lot of questions. Why are they there? Why should they be riding in the Giro? Do they deserve an invitation, a wild card? Well, I think from what they've been doing the first couple of days, they've been certainly, answering that question to quite a big extent.
Yeah, I think so. Benedetti was good yesterday. And Hohenstein, especially with that sort of virtual Maglia Rosa thing going on. Lampre was still with two men at the front. Katusha have got a couple of riders up towards the front, including Alexander Kristoff, the Norwegian national champion. And that's hardly surprising, Sean. We mentioned the man, first of all, when we got on air. We can mention him again now. Joaquim Rodríguez. Today, got a number of reasons why he might want to do something, and he is, of course, the Katusha leader. First of all, the parkour, the finish today, suits him down to the ground with 1.6 kilometres of reasonably steep, but not massively steep climb to go. Good finish for him, but also another reason.
Yes, well, it's the finish is perfect running for him. Also, his birthday, 33 today, so for that reason he'll be really going for it. And the way things are looking, if it comes back together and it's a big bunch sprint for the victory here, well then he is certainly one of the big favourites, if not the biggest one.
I would say so today. So a birthday for the little cigar, Perito. And 33. He'll want the victory today, and it's perfectly made for him today. It was Bici Almeria who managed to get the fastest answer to the Costa Rican. It's Amador, Andre Amador. Sorry, I missed out there. In about 1 minute and 10 seconds. So that was good. Working together, rolling around, doing bit and bit. But it's a long old day in this saddle out there by yourself. Another 200 plus kilometre stage. They've got 7 minutes of a gap now, so the gap is beginning to fall as Lampre and Katusha start to add their weight together at the front. .640, the gap is coming down now. As Sean was pointing out, they're beginning to look a little tired, the four at the front. But they only just had to keep the pace rolling along here. Lampre, and now there's two Katusha men mixed up with this group as well. And in effect, at the moment it's about 4 versus 4. You've got 4 men up ahead in the breakaway, and the first 2, 3, 4 riders here in this line rotating, so they're all pulling the rest of them along. So 4 versus 4. Often it'll happen the other way. It'll be more difficult for the breakaway to stay away, because if a lot of riders start working behind, you always count the ones that are rotating at the front, so you might have 4 in the break and 8 chasing and so forth. But I think they are getting a bit tired out the front, Sean, and the weather has been so good at the moment. Of course, begs the question that if the weather suddenly closed in and it was absolutely dreadful, some riders, as the phrase you often use, can tolerate that sort of stuff, those extreme changes in temperature straight away, and it can happen as you get into the mountains, and some can't, and it could be the death knell for some riders. Well, to adapt is a difficult one, because we're getting very warm conditions here in the last couple of days, and if you get that for a week of real good weather, and then in the final week, for example, you get horrible conditions, difficult for riders to adapt, and we've seen that in the past. Some riders really suffer and really lose out in the race because of that. But at the moment,
the weather conditions, I think, are just that little bit too warm. A couple of 5 or 6 degrees cooler would be perfect weather conditions, because it is very energy sapping. And out in front there, the 4 riders are starting to pay for it. You can see the terrain here as well. You can almost feel the heat on your screen.
Yep, well, it's absolutely bouncing off the road there. That feeling of diving underneath a building like that, and just that coolness that passes over you when you've been riding hard just for a little while, and then popping out the other side back into the sun again. A lot of riders love these sort of conditions though, and Jan Ullrich, for example, was a rider who just used to thrive on really, really hot conditions. Some guys can do it, some guys can't. In your day, Sean, who were the riders that you knew around you that when the conditions got extremely hot, or just hot like this day after day after day, were going to get better because they absolutely loved it?
Well, I think the majority of nations like the Spaniards, riders that come from the Colombia, they were, no problem in the warm conditions when it got really hot in the Tour de France, and getting up to 35, 37 degrees. They have no problems, and you can see it when it gets to the 30, 32, 33. I remember I would have my jersey, I'd be trying to open it down as much as possible, because then we had only a shorter of a zip, and now they have a full-length zip, and them guys would be riding with the zip totally closed. So that just gives you an indication immediately. And when you get the real warm conditions, they can just perform to the same ability that they're capable of doing in the real warm conditions. Where a rider who suffers in the warm, well then he loses 3 or 4% of his possibility of his performance.
Some riders can do it, some riders who can't. Beppu takes on like 2 bottles, tried to grab another one there. It's not an easy thing to do. Sometimes you can lose control. It's Brand, I think, in the women's race at Flèche Wallonne, who did exactly that. Tried to grab 2 bottles at once, hands off the bars, and just lost control of the bike. And because there's no way of controlling it, then down she came hard. Yes, I remember, Sean, you and I went on a training camp many years ago. Can you remember, in Tenerife? And there was a Spanish chap there, a local guy, who came out with us, and it was absolutely scorching. Everybody was in jerseys with the zips done down as much as possible, and this guy would turn up every day with longs on, or leg warmers, arm warmers, and a scarf, and a woolly hat, and just because it wasn't warm enough for him. Still went like the clappers though, didn't they?
Yes, and I suppose I had come from Ireland and you had come from England, and the weather conditions, it was probably 15 plus degrees more for us than it had been back home. So we were just short sleeves and just shorts, and just perfect weather for biking, and he was totally wrapped up. But it's still the same when I go down to Mallorca doing these bike holiday training camps down there. You see the locals, they come out and they're just wrapped up like we are going out at home in the month of January, and everybody else is in short sleeves, and it's just that they're just climatised to such warm weather conditions 80% of the time, and when it's a little bit cooler they just wrap up so much. And you can understand then when the riders from that climate comes to a race like Tour of Italy, Tour of France, when they get the warm conditions, it's much easier for them to adapt and to perform at their best. It's so easy for them.
There's the pink jersey, Adriano Malori, turning over that bigger gear. He's Italian national time trial champion. Nice young chap that he is, and good day for him. A lot more to come from Malori. And Ulesi is the other one. Ulesi I would like to see a lot more of as a rider. I think great things going to happen for him in the next 2 or 3 years. Both of them very, very good time trialists. Both of them look up to riders like Marco Pinotti as their heroes, and a very good role model he is as well. As we go through Montreal. Yeah, it's beginning a little bit to be broken up here. Rabottini is the man in the back from Varnesi Vini. They have to keep working together. They'll be aware, Sean, that gap has come down over 1.5 minutes in the last 10 kilometres. So the Peloton are on the move, and they have to become a little bit more active. And it's Mirko Silvaggi saying, for goodness sakes, keep on working together, or we're going to lose it here.
do your turn.
Exactly.
And yes, it's it's a calculation. The four out in front, I think, they have been riding within themselves. They're not giving it 100% at this point, and haven't been for the last kilometres at all. And you have to make that calculation up front. If you get to 7 minutes or 8 minutes, well, then you try and hold it at that and get to a point 30 kilometres, 40 kilometres from the finish, and then you can start working well together and really start pushing on. But you have to have four guys which are feeling good, which are pretty equal, and four who want to commit at 100%, because if one starts to missing turns, well, then the others are getting unhappy with that, and the organisation totally gets upset with the breakaway, and then they start losing time. And it looks like this the way the time is coming down at the moment, the bunch, they're not really reacted at all yet, and this time gap is melting down.
Yeah, going down quite quickly now. Little Hollenstein, as I said, new bike brand in the Peloton, Simplon there. I'm sure it's named after the Simplon Pass, but certainly has a suitable alpine name. That is the chosen steeds of NetApp this year.
Would be a good bike in the climbs.
Yes, yeah. Regardless of the rider? Probably not. Really.
Well, Simplon, mountain, big
Should
mountain.
Be. Yeah, I know. I can see the logic. Presumably, then Canyon are good bikes for the descents. I hadn't thought about it that way, but it could be. That's a good, interesting one. What should bikes be good at based on their name? Less than 60k to go. That's a lovely place to be. I can think of no better places to be than in central Italy, in one of these hilltop towns over the next few days. I certainly wouldn't want to be in the breakaway today. To chase and stay away from a marauding peloton in the last 20 or 30 k's or so. About 20k, Sean, the last climb. And really, I mean, even this far out, it's 60k, just under. These guys will be aware that the peloton is coming at them, and they'll start thinking about, well, what do we do? Calculating, bringing the road book out, the road sheet out of their back pocket, seeing what the terrain is like for the next 20 kilometres. Are they likely to stay away? Aren't they likely to stay away? What do they have to do to work together to keep going? So the calculation goes on all the time with these guys up front.
Yes, and you can see there some moments ago, the rider from NetApp, Hollenstein, he was getting a little bit nervous already because Rambotti missing just a turn. I think he was looking for his team car, waiting for his team car to come up, and immediately Hollenstein was just waving, and that tells me like he's really concerned about keeping going, keeping pushing it on, and of course he is all to gain, because if they can hold on with a number of minutes, 2.5, 3 minutes to the finish, or even less than that, he is so close to the pink jersey race leader. I think he's thinking about that, but it's early days yet, still just under 70 kilometres to go. I think I'm afraid that the director sportifs of the four leaders out in front, they're making the calculation back in the car. It's not going to happen for the four breakaway men, but they're not going to tell their riders out on the road that. They're going to say, well, keep on working at it, guys. If you can keep that 4 minutes and get it into the last 30 kilometres, well, then you have a real good chance. You just try and keep your guys motivated, and that's what it's all about, and I think that's what the directors will be trying to do with our four leaders. But again, as we can see, it's just dropping down slowly but surely without any real up of pace in the main peloton.
It's Fumiaki Beppu at the back here. So the Japanese rider, Japanese time trial champion, has been Japanese road champion in the past. Somebody wrote in a question saying, do you remember in the 87 Nissan, Sean, there was a Japanese rider in the Hitachi team? If I remember rightly, wasn't his name Ichikawa? Do you remember that?
Yes, I remember the rider. I remember he was riding, yes, with Hitachi, and but I do not remember the Tour of Ireland. But of course, he was riding a lot of races. I remember he was living in Belgium, and he was doing a lot of races around Belgium. And yes, I remember when he was with Hitachi.
That's a very narrow section through that. Be careful coming through that. Yes, Ichikawa was the man. Very, very difficult. It was like real trailblazer. I think there's a really good story in there. I think I'll sell that into somebody and try and write it. It's a really good story about. We've heard the story of Australian riders who came over very famously. Phil Anderson, Alan Piper, of course, was the director sportive at Garmin here. All these sort of guys, Scott Sunderland a bit later on, who came and lived in Belgium and became adopted Belgians. It was an awful long way back, which is why they were successful. They had the hunger. But riders like Ichikawa are real trailblazers, Sean. I mean, the Japanese have never really had an enormous amount of road riding presence in the professional European peloton. And for a man like Ichikawa to come over and stay and make a career at a big team like Hitachi was is saying something.
Well, I think the reason he was there as well, Hitachi, he was in there because of that. So, but to come over for those guys and for any of the riders, that are not cycling nations. Australia, of course, it's a bit more of a cycling nation, no matter how far you go back. But for the likes of Katusha, it was something new to live in Belgium. It must have been a shock to the system. But if you're being looked after, and I think. A lot of the riders came over, it was really difficult for them because they had no financial backing from the team they were in. They had to try and just get into races, win some preems to survive.
Absolutely. Yes, Ichikawa was the Japanese rider who rode with Hitachi all those years ago. 5 minutes and 50 is the gap. It's coming down very quickly now. 55 kilometres to go, and our four men are doomed, methinks, as the gap has come down over 2 minutes in the last 12 kilometres. And it's Katusha now leading the peloton. Rabottini. You cannot miss them, can you? Those Farnese boys. And thank you for those of you who've sent over pictures of Ichikawa. Thanks to Graham Healy, author along with Richard Olchin of a fantastically good biography of Shea Elliott, great Irish rider, sending us a picture of Ichikawa. Big old specs on him. This gap's going to come down fairly well now, Sean. They may leave them hanging out there for a bit longer, just cut that down a little bit. But as you said, Sean, they're going to need about, 3 minutes by the time they get to the bottom of the 19 kilometre climb? Well, if not more.
Yes, minimum 3 minutes, I think. Even at 3 minutes, it would be cutting it fine, and there would have to be somebody in the four-man breakaway still feeling really strong. They have the calculation very good here from the team of Lamprey, and they're just going to keep on working at it gradually now. 5:46 at 50 kilometres to go. If you had a flat stage, totally flat to the finish, it would still be very, very difficult. With a climb of almost 20 kilometres, not looking good at all. Not going to be possible for the breakaway today.
It's not looking that way. Marshall's doing a fairly good job today. It's a nasty little bit of tarmac on the corner there. But they're doing a good job of waving the red flag to say it's dangerous. A well-known blogger of cycling said recently, what's the man with the red flag for? Clearly has either never studied cycling or history about transport. Blokes with red flags mean danger. That's what he was there for. Farnese Vini haven't really caught fire yet at all, Sean, have they? They've been in breaks, so we had an early bit of success with Alfredo Balloni getting the mountains classification jersey, but that was in Denmark. I mean, they've been on the television, but do you think they'd have been expecting a little more from Pozzato yesterday, or has he got bigger things in mind? I mean, he could could have been a stage for him yesterday. Maybe today.
Well, it could have been a stage. When you look at the finish yesterday, like, he was very much up there. He finished 7th on the stage. Darrell Impey was, the best of the one of the best was who was Bendesi. So yes, there was, he was really up there in the shake-up in the final sprint. If it had been a bit more difficult, a bit more aggressive, it probably would have suited Filippo Pozzato. But today again is a one, I think, where he should be able to, put up a good performance here, and it's an opportunity for him, because in the big sprints he's there, but to win in a big sprint against any of the better sprinters, the real big sprinters here, he's not fast enough to do that. So this is the terrain. And today, once again, I think it's an opportunity for him. And the way he's riding, he was aggressive yesterday in the final, and that seems like the form is good. So today, I think we will see much more of Vini Farnese and Pozzato in the final. I think they will be trying to keep him up there and get him into a real good position for the final run-in.
Yes, how long can they wait? This is the thing. Farnese, Vini have a good exposure at the beginning of the year, but Pozzato didn't take an expected classic, was what they wanted him for. Or he was there, or there, he was second in Flanders, but big disappointment in Paris-Roubaix, Sean, for those of us watching, and I think for the team as well. They were absolutely furious with him, falling off and just then not contesting, not trying to chase back on and so forth. Clearly he was hurt a bit more than he said he was, but he's here. He's in the Giro d'Italia, home race. It's a team that needs to show something, and how long can they wait?
Well, I think he wasn't really good shape for the classics, because in the Tour of Flanders he was very impressive in the final there, especially on the climbs. But against Bonen, and the way Bonen was riding this year, the form he was in, there was nothing he could do against him in a sprint. Paris-Roubaix was a disappointing. We were expecting a lot from him, and we could see when he had the fall, and I think he threw in the towel a bit quick, and the team also, we could see the actions and the hand movements of some of the people in the car. They weren't happy, and I did see after the Paris-Roubaix, actually, I see Skinto in the airport, and I was saying, how is Pozzato, is he injured? He said no, and I said he was I thought he'd be better yesterday. He just put the hands in the air, as the Italians do, so they were a bit disappointed. But here, if he wins a stage here, and I think they will be happy with that. And going forward as well, I suppose the season is long. If you look at what's to come with this year, the World Championships as well is a place where Pozzato could be a one. If he gets real good shape, it will be a circuit will suit him real good as well. So the season is long, and we know Pozzato, that's the way he is, that's the style of rider he is. He said, I ride my bike, I enjoy my bike riding, enjoy racing, and it's been suggested that he should train a bit more, be a bit more serious, but he said very outspoken, I want to ride my bike as I'm doing it now, and that's the way I'm going to do it.
Yes, he was very outspoken, saying, I like the way I live, I like my life, I like my bike riding, if you don't like it, tough, basically. That was what he said. But, I suppose the patience wears thin at some point with those people who are paying the salaries, but if you buy him on that basis for your team, then presumably that's what you're going to live with. Lamprey all at the front now, and Mallory, a little bit difficult to spot because the pink and blue of Lamprey is normal colours, but just at the back of that group. Yeah, over shoulder, Manuela Belletti waiting for the car. Belletti was in the break yesterday, really hasn't performed in the way that AG2R would have liked him to. Came from Colnago. He's won a sprint stage in the Giro. Good rider. AG2R still without anything. They must be not dreading, Sean, but feeling the pressure as they come closer towards the mountains, or even a finish like today, because we haven't seen hide nor hair really of Jean Gadret, and in fact some of their rival teams, French teams like Francis de Jure, have had Geoffrey Soup, for example, turn in a pretty good performance, and he finished pretty well yesterday. Geoffrey Soup, I think, finished fairly well up in the stage as it finished him yesterday, but even Gadret is not performing to his best.
Yes, well, Soup was up there.
Francis de Jure,
yes, he was 10th in the stage, so he finished up well. But Yes, AG2R, they're having a difficult start, not able to get the victory, and I think they will be getting a little bit nervous. And as time ticks on, we're getting into the season, and if they could get a stage victory here in this Giro, it would be, take all the pressure off. Gadre, for the moment, he's in a good position in general classification, considering what we've been through, because he could be a long ways off. He's at 2:49 at the moment. Against some of the other favourites, it's a little bit further down, but again, the final week, there's a lot of opportunities for him. But the big question is, Gadre, how is he going? Because we have had no real tests yet for the big favourites, and today is not going to be a one. We'll have to wait a bit further, and can Gadre do anything like he was doing last year in the Giro, where he won a great stage victory, and also in the general classification very much up there? Can he repeat that? That is the big question mark there, and I think if we could get a stage victory from some of the other riders of AG2R, it would take a lot of pressure off of everybody.
Yes, it would indeed. Of course, Johan Gadre promoted to third overall in the Giro d'Italia last year, following the stripping of the title from the shoulders of Alberto Contador, and they'll take that. Thank you very much. Third place for AG2R. The record books, that's what it'll show. For Gadre, he'll take that as well, but he has to start performing. There's Belletti, he's on water carrying duties, which is why he was waiting at the back for the car. Slices past the race official's car and around the outside. 5:44, the gap is steady. As we suspected, Lampard is taking it back a little bit, keeping it under control, which shows how quickly they can really eat up this gap if they want to. They've just let it stay at 5:44 now. They could easily take another minute, 2 minutes out of it if they wanted to, and then leave it at that. 45 kilometres to go here, with 5:43 the gap in stage 7 of the Giro. Berretti, there they are, here on stage 7 of the Giro d'Italia. We were talking a little bit earlier, as Graham Healy sent us a picture of Ichikawa, his excellent biography of Shea Elliott, the great Irish rider, is available through Sport and Publicity for those people who are asking. Co-written with Richard Olchin of Sport and Publicity, and who was it was telling me? Muller One says, you've mentioned Shea Elliott. His memorial race is tomorrow, run by Bray Wheelers. Sean won it twice. He did indeed. He informs me in the outbreak he won it when he was a junior against the seniors. So that must have upset them. Indeed. 5:30 is the gap, and they really come out to support. They love the Giro, to the Italians. It really is part of the fabric of the whole of Italian society. The Giro played such an important part in establishing Italy as a country, both before the last war and before the last World War, and just afterwards in its rebuilding. Remember, it was a pretty new country, Italy, when the Giro d'Italia began back in the early 20th century, and as it went through the 1910s and 1920s and so forth, it became a national symbol as they tried to weld the country together and become Italians, really, more than anything else. And remember, a lot of places around the Italian peninsula spoke their own language still, until very recently. So it was really welding it together. And then after the war, of course, when they were rebuilding the country after the devastation and all the political upheaval and the recriminations of the Second World War, and still with lots of polarized political opinions, it was incredibly important once again in welding the nation back together, with people like Fausto Coppi coming in during the 40s and through the 50s, and just Gimondi and riders working their way through 60s and 70s and so on, and it became a real national symbol. There are some good books on the Giro d'Italia. Hurry Sykes' book Maglia Rosa is one of the latest ones, and there's Paul Foot's Pedalare, which is a really lovely, probably an easier book to pick up on the train or something. than Maglia Rosa. Pedalari, just a whole part of the culture that you can get a grip on. 5:36 is the gap at the moment. And Sean, did you always get the impression that the Italians themselves have always been in love with this race, and it's such a part of their culture, isn't it?
Well, it is. Cycling is such a part of their culture, and I suppose when you go to race in Italy, I remember my early days when I was amateur. I went to do some races. The Tour of Lombardy amateur would have been one of my first ones. I was racing in a club which was up in Metz, up near on the Luxembourg border, France, Luxembourg, and the president of the club was an Italian. He took us to some races there, and it was just it was something new for me, because the way the people supported the race, and that was at an amateur level, the way they turn out, and the way they get very enthusiastic with the racing, especially on the climbs like a Tour of Lombardy, where it's a very hilly race. And for me, that was an experience, and it's something I will always remember. And then as you go on, when you do the Milan San Remos and the Tour of Lombardy with the professionals, like the way they support their races and the turnout, and as we've seen, like for many years, the Tour of Italy, the Giro, the way they just get involved in the racing. And I suppose we'll all remember the year that Stephen Roach won the Tour of Italy, when he was in the team of Carrera, and then with Vincentini. Stephen Roach got into the breakaway, and he took over the race leadership, and there was a bit of friction in the team. They were saying that he was, taking the race leadership and taking the victory from Vincentini, and but it was the way the race was going, and it got pretty hot and heavy for Stephen down there. The supporters of Vincentini were not. Did not take it lightly, and that's the way they are. That's the way the Tifosi are. They really, take their cycling to heart, and if they have a rider, they support him, and they can get, very, very hot and get sometimes aggressive.
Yeah, very much so. Under 40 kilometres to go then. 5:30 is the gap, and the last climb is about 19 kilometres long. There'll be a little spark in the brains of those 4 breakaway riders up ahead, thinking just a few more kilometres. If we can make it there, then we have a chance of giving it as much as we can on the last climb of the day. It will blow to bits, that group of 4. Rabottini from Farnese Vini, Fumiaki Beppu from Orica Greeners, the Japanese rider Reto Hollenstein from NetApp, the Swiss rider, who's only at 1 minute 21 on the general classification, and Mirko Selvaggi, 21 and a quarter minutes down. There he is, turn that big old gear again. Selvaggi. That's how the overall standings would look if it finished right now, the race. Hollenstein would lead by 4 minutes and 9 seconds over Mallory, and then Golash, Hesjedal and Urbiano, yesterday's stage winner. But when we go back to see the peloton, you will see that in fact Garmin Barracuda have started to put men on the front of the peloton now. Albertini pushing on here. Still working well together, 2 very tall men, Selvaggi and Hollenstein, and the 2 smaller men are Beppu here at the front and Rabottini. Now the peloton is definitely on the charge here now, Sean.
Definitely, we can see the way it's stretched out on the front of the bunch. The top 20 places, one line, and then it opens out a bit, but the pace is getting just faster, and it's speeding up all the time. And we're in a section as well where it is a little bit downhill, relatively flat until we get to that final climb of the day. There's a little bit of a kick up a bit further out, about 25 kilometres out, but nothing really to bother the peloton. So this is where the peloton can just go so fast and just up their pace all the time, and the 4 leaders, that's where they're going to lose a lot of time here before we get to the final climb of the day. And coming down to 5 minutes now at the moment, well, you can see that they're not. It's doubtful we'll have 3 minutes at the bottom of the climb, and it's by far too little to have any chance of going on. And getting a stage victory.
There's one man we think might have a go for the stage victory today, Jose Rojano of Androni. Yeah, today's stage is very difficult. I think it will be rather a small group. He says 50 riders or so. Very interesting finish. I think I'll just try and stay up there towards the finish. Yeah, and I want to stay up somewhere close to keep close up in the general classification. Fair enough from Rojano. They've had a good day yesterday with Rubiano, his teammate. One is a Venezuelan and Rubiano a Colombian. And another big chunk of time being taken out of our 4 breakaway men. 36.5 kilometers to go, and 5 minutes and 8 seconds is the time gap. Well, who will have a go today at the finish? I mean, the riders who seem to be in form and could suit this type of finish for the stage win, not necessarily for staying up there in the general classification. And for those, we'd be looking at riders like Gianni Bugno, Gianni Bugno, he's been tired for years. What am I talking about? Ivan Basso. Gadre will want to be up there if he possibly can, but riders like Rojano could do both. He's got a good little kick on attack, so he could well do something today. Cunego is going very well. Balan might be a bit heavy for Balan today, but who knows? Rodriguez is the outstanding favourite, I think, but also riders that maybe we haven't seen much of today to date. Frank Schleck, Nieve maybe from Euskaltel if he's in any good shape. Visconti, Gasparotto. There's a lot of riders who could contend for a victory today, as well as Pozzato we've already talked about.
A lot, and it's a difficult one to take a rider capable of winning here, or to pick a winner, let's say. It's one of these times where I think there will be a lot of riders get through, and we did hear Rugano saying 50 riders maybe at the finish, so you can imagine there's a lot of riders in with a possibility today. I would say that we will definitely see Stefano Pirazzi. We will see him on this final climb.
You reckon?
Without a doubt.
We'd like to. We like a bit of Stefano Pirazzi. Have a go.
35 to go.
Rolling along still. And under 5 minutes now is the gap. The gap is going to come tumbling down now as Garmin Barracuda, determined to take it up a little bit earlier today, get to the front. They missed out yesterday. They took it up a little bit too late. And in the end, Ryder Hesjedal missed out on the pink jersey of overall leader here in the Giro d'Italia. He starts the day at only 17 seconds down on the general classification, well within his capabilities of finish like today, Sean, as well. And he doesn't necessarily have to win the stage, of course. He just needs to put a load of time into Adriano Malori, which is not unlikely on a finish like today. Malori, although he was going up the hills okay yesterday, he's not a patch on Hesjedal when it comes to climbing. And if they put the hammer down at the end, it'll be bye-bye pink jersey for Lampre, I would imagine. I could go to Cunego, or I could go, but he's going to be off the shoulders of Malori anyway.
Yes, it's going to be difficult for Malori to hang in here if there's a real, ding-dong battle on the final climb, and they, keep the pace real high in the earlier part of the climb, because it is just under the 18 kilometre of a climb here, and I think that's where Malori, with the real high speed for a long time in the earlier part of the climb, he could have difficulty. But again, he's in exceptional shape. Yesterday I was amazed the way he was riding yesterday on that difficult final 35 kilometres. With the race leader pink jersey on his shoulders, it might give him that bit more as well to hang in there. And it's certainly a climb, it's big gear stuff which he can do well. So when you look at that, it's possibly could hang in there. I'm not difficult to make the calculation there, but Hesjedal is in a real good position as well, because at 17 seconds it's an opportunity for Garmin Barracuda to take the race leadership over here today. But it all depends how good Adriano Mallory is in this final climb.
The other question you have to ask is that if what an amphitheatre looks like when you take it to bits. The other question, of course, Sean, is that if Garmin Barracuda take the Maglia Rosa, the pink jersey, this early in the proceedings on what is really only the second day with some significant hills in it, they've then got to try and hang on to it or defend it, or will they defend it, or what do they do? Because Hesjedal is a rider capable of certainly placing very highly in the Giro, if not winning it on the good day. So what do they do? It's still quite early for them to take a jersey and hang on to it. Do they just sacrifice it after a while? Do they take it just as a backup? They've got one in the bank then, haven't they, if they need to? What will be the plan?
Well, it's always difficult to know what the plan is, because depending on how good Hesjedal is, and within the team and the rider himself, they will know exactly where he is if he's coming into real good shape. They could take the jersey just for a day or a number of days and not really commit the team too much. But if he's not feeling that real good and he feels that he's not going to be good enough to contest a major place in the general classification, today is the opportunity. They're so close to getting the pink jersey. It might not be there tomorrow or in 2 or 3 days' time. The tactic, there could be many different tactics there from the Garmin Barracuda team that take the jersey while it's possible and then see later. And I suppose you can take it day by day as well. It's difficult to make a tactic plan now at this moment in the race. You have to see after the finish today if he gets into the race leadership, who else is up there in the top of the table in the general classification. You have to look at all of that. So you just go for the tactic today, work with it until the end of the stage, and then have a re-look and decide on a tactic for the following days to come.
4 minutes the gap now at 31 kilometres. It's becoming increasingly difficult for these guys. They've upped the pace. There's a Hohenstein in the middle. He's spent most of his life riding in those Central European teams, Austrian teams, Swiss teams, that sort of thing. He's never won a race as a professional. Hohenstein. Beppo, on the other hand, has won a lot of races, a lot of them in Japan. It's not surprising. But Katusha and Lampre have their combined forces on the front now, and very soon this gap that we said was under 5 minutes is going to be under 4 minutes. Lionel Marie is the director sportif, leaning out of the car, giving instructions to Fumiaki Beppo. Surely somebody here will be saying shortly, Sean, we either keep rolling through together, and at what point, if you feel strong enough, do you get away? That's the question they will be asking themselves, and the director sportives will be asking each other. You've got to keep pushing on, or you have to put an attack in and move away. Beppo gets to the front, and he's certainly trying to keep the pace a little bit higher. It's a difficult call, isn't it, Sean? Especially if you have all been riding well together. It's not necessarily attacking the others that you want to do, but you need to sort of up the pace and keep going. And sometimes the other guys just can't stay with you. It seems like attacking, but you've got to keep pushing on.
Well, I think at the moment they have to just keep on riding and give it their best until the climb itself. And then when you get to that point, well, you just make a decision, if there's some of the riders not good enough, and it will happen automatically again today. When you get a climb at the finish, the weaker ones will start to lose contact very quickly. But it's a situation here. They're just going to continue on riding and see what they've got at the bottom of the climb. But they know, I think, they have a feeling that with 29 kilometres to go and the gap coming down so quickly, they're going to be concerned that it's not enough to have any chance of hanging on in there. But they just have to take the most out of the stage today. Keep on riding here, stay out in front as long as possible, and get the exposure for the team and for their sponsor.
This is L'Aquila. We're looking at from the helicopter. And why are there still a lot of cranes around? Well, of course, this is the town that had that dreadful earthquake a number of years back. I can't remember how far back it was now. Was it 2009, I think? I think it was 2009, because the following year, 2010, that's right, yeah, it was 2009, because 2010 the Giro came here as remembrance for the people who died in this terrible earthquake here in L'Aquila, and a lot of the historic buildings just collapsing in this old city. Ah, that was the stage, I remember now. That was the stage where the huge gap was pulled out, Sean, if you remember, in the filthy rain. And Yevgeny Petrov won from the break of about 30 riders. But there was a 12-minute or so gap, wasn't there, between themselves and some of the big favourites, including Basso and so forth. And that really changed the whole nature of the race in 2010. So it's a fairly momentous area, L'Aquila.
Yes, and it was horrible conditions on the day as well.
Terrible. Terrible conditions. And as we've said before, we tried our damnedest to work out who was in what break, and the cameras were steamed up and you couldn't see what was going on. Everybody had rain capes on, you didn't know who was who. Faces covered in filth and muck. And I seem to remember Cadel Evans even put a little scarf thing on over his face. He was in the chasing group. And the only person we didn't manage to nail down is in the group of 32, I think riders, I think it was Yevgeny Petrov, and he went and won. There we go. Intermediate sprint here at L'Aquila. And who wants to take this? Selvaggi pushes Beppu back into the line. That's because Selvaggi wants the car up. Too worried about contesting the intermediate sprint then. I think these guys will just take it if it comes, really. Maybe Rabottini is the sort of chap who might try and get some points here. Really, they just need to keep rolling through and working with 27.8 kilometers still to go. The two big men in this group at the back, that's one of the big, tall, stocky riders. There's Reto Hollenstein, the Swiss rider, riding from Netap there in the blue and the white with the pink stripe down the back. In the dark blue and white, Beppu just nips in to get the points. And this is it. This is exactly what we were saying, Sean, about we were discussing this not 5 minutes ago, that two riders here, Beppu was having the discussion with Léon Marie, use at some point, try and get away and push the pace on. Selvaggi clearly on the wheel of Beppu, perhaps realised that is exactly what was going to happen, because he'd been back and spoken to Léon Marie, his director sportif, as it was already. Using that as a springboard, so it doesn't seem much like an attack, but keeping the pace going a little bit. These two will keep going. Maybe the others will ride back to the wheel, but they've got to keep going. Selvaggi not that keen on that, I don't think.
Selvaggi is not, I think, agreeing with that. You can see there he's, talking with Beppu and saying, well, like, you're crazy, why are we doing this? I reckon that's what he's saying. And with the advantage 2:53, 27 kilometres to go, they need to try and keep together. And it looked like they were working okay together, all four contributing pretty regularly to the pace setting, and it's not the thing to do to go on the attack at the moment.
Great shots looking down on L'Aquila. And complete devastation. And we're just rebuilding it slowly, but slowly. Yes, we came here back in 2010. If you remember, on that filthy, dirty day with 32, I think it was, riders, but 30 plus riders in the breakaway. 12 minutes or so they got. Petrov won the day. Rabottini goes up the road. Is he trying to... I just didn't quite catch on whether there are more riders than one down the road there. Is he trying to bridge a gap, or has to have the rest caught them and he's gone away?
I think they've come back together, and now Rabottini is going in the attack, and that is...
it's the end of that then.
It's the end. It's the end of the breakaway. I think it's going to end much earlier than we had been expecting it, because with 2:30 at the moment, it's just coming down. So it's going to come down rapidly, because they're all individual on the road here. They need to join forces, keep riding together, that is the best way to hold on to the advantage for a longer time.
I think we managed to catch up with Gendt, a man who really needs to do something.
C'est sûr qu'aujourd'hui ça va être un grand test, je pense, pour tout le monde, même si
today it's
ça paraît pas très difficile sur le papier avec la
finish
chaleur. Je pense que déjà hier on a souffert, donc
I
aujourd'hui
think
ça
we'll
va
just
être
have to
encore une étape
stay
difficile.
in the
Donc,
right
va falloir perdre le moins de temps
place.
possible sur les meilleurs.
It's going to be a little bit difficult to sort it out towards the end, but we've got to go for it.
D'hier et d'avant-hier et de la chaleur.
Hier, pour ma part, j'ai passé une sale journée. J'ai vraiment souffert. Je me suis accroché comme
Well,
j'ai
I've got
pu.
to make. I don't think it's going to be where we can make a huge difference, but I've got to try and get up there feeling.
Maintenant, j'aurai des jours avec, donc.
Okay.
Mais c'est vrai qu'hier, il y avait un bon tempo et puis tous ces petits
But
raidars
it's not
avec la chaleur.
quite
C'était
full mountain here,
vraiment
but
Est-ce
it's
que
still
tu penses
hard enough.
qu'aujourd'hui c'est un outsider qui peut prendre un avantage et que les grands favoris vont se neutraliser encore une fois?
Ouais, je pense que c'est pas.
It's one. I think it's one of those days where it doesn't necessarily have to be one of the big favourites. They all have to keep themselves up towards the front. An escape won't stay away, I don't think. So it's Gendt. Look at the way this is tumbled now, Sean. This gap under 2 minutes, and these guys started attacking each other, possibly with good reason, one has to say.
Well, I don't know if it's a good reason, because they're all over the place here. We can see they're just ripping the legs off each other out front, and I think they realise that it's not, going to happen at all here. 1:44, 25 kilometres to go. So they're all just trying to get the maximum out of the day and be the last one out in front. Get out there, get as many minutes of air time as possible, and if you can get away out in front, well, then you get that extra time. And we can see here they're just it's just one after the other, attacking, slowing up, then another one will go, and I think they have this idea who is going to be the one who'll stay the longest out in front.
Yes. Well, we're almost at the bottom of the climb. There's about 4 kilometres or so to go. And they're all massing at the front here, but Katusha clearly laying down what they want to do, Sean. Rodríguez, it's his birthday, it's 33 today, it's exactly his sort of finish. One step towards the front. They are trying to dictate the pace, along with Lampre, who have not only the pink jersey, but 2 guys good for this sort of finish. Damiano Cunego slightly more so than perhaps Scarponi, but both of them really good for this sort of finish, and they've laid their intentions down, they're working together, and they've chopped that gap down from 5 minutes to under 2 minutes almost immediately.
Yes, that gap has really come down quickly, and now we see the teams on the front with the riders who are going to go for stage victory, who are going to go for the stage victory, the overall victory, and it's about positioning at the moment to get onto this final climb. As we started around the 20 kilometres, the starts to kick up, and at 18 kilometres, I think, then we're onto the climb, really onto it. But we could see again where a lot of movement to get onto the climb, and then suddenly just everybody looks at each other for a long time on this climb. It's happened before, and it could be the same situation. They all play the waiting game, and we have a huge group of riders, 60, 80 riders together, getting into the final 3 or 4 kilometres of the climb.
And what isn't going to be the case, I don't think, is that anybody from that breakaway will stay away. They'll get onto the early part of the slope, that's for sure. Garmin Barracuda really absolutely ragging this one out, with Lewandowski having had his day in the sun, literally, yesterday. Pushing on, doing the job he's so used to doing, and Rapatini's gone again here, and it's left to Reto Hollenstein to try and shut the gap down, and Mirko Selvaggi will say, I'll sit on your wheel. Selvaggi the most canny one here, Sean, I think. He's certainly the one who has the thinking brain.
Well, I think he's the one to gain. Maybe he feels he's going to gain here. If he can stay to the climb, he probably feels, he looks like he's a climber. He certainly have the build of that, but he's the one who's doing a lot of giving out here and not happy with the way the riders are, working at the moment, just attacking each other. But I can understand the reason they're at this, because it's game over really, and it's just a matter of who's going to, the last one to stay the most kilometres out in front.
Yeah, exactly. Rabottini goes, all right then, I'll have it. That's me, I'll have a go. Now he's out ahead, and it was Reto Hollenstein who was being asked to do the work to shut him down, as he's still on front. They're all looking at each other. So Selvaggi's having a quick look around once again. Beppu's had a couple of goes. 21.5 kilometres to go. Last ditch attempt by these guys. Now Vadauskas at the front, as we mentioned, with just behind him Robert Hunter, the national champion of South Africa. There's Detna, the best young, well, he's got the best young rider's jersey on. He's not the best young rider. That is held by the leader of the race, Adriano Mallory. Just behind him is Christian van der Velde, the sort of super domestique van der Velde, to Ryder Hesjedal. Really strung out now at the back here. With Marco Colodan, the lead-out man for Sasha Morello, really hanging in there at the back. Liquigas coming up on the right-hand side, trying to keep Basso out of trouble, but they're all massing towards the front. Once again, they have never been absent from the front, Sean, at the end of a stage so far, Liquigas, at all.
No, they have been very much to the fore, and very much in a group 5-6 plus riders with Basso there, and keep him in a good position. And it's nice to see that, and it's for a leader like Basso. If you have a team that can be with you in this style of stage, a number of riders, it gives you morale, and they must feel that he's in good shape, and they're going to try him because he's the man. He's been up there in the big tours before, won big tour, so they're going to look after him right through.
It's a good illustration of how it's not difficult to have a look behind you. Roberto Ferrari needed one. It's obviously not sprinting, but in this case Robert Hunter was just on the front and done his turn on the front, wished to move over, and had a good look behind him to make sure no train is coming up either side. 20 kilometres to go then for Rabottini, Matteo Rabottini of Farnese Vini. He is 10 minutes and 27 seconds adrift on the overall classification, but today it's all about plugging on for as long as you can to see if you can get anywhere near a stage victory. I fear 'tis not to be for the man from Farnese Vini today, because here come the Peloton. Now Movistar moving riders up towards the front, including Giovanni Visconti. They lost Pablo Lastras yesterday in a nasty crash where he busted 5 ribs, a collarbone, and managed to do his shoulder in as well. And maybe a day for Visconti, but also for Ventoso today if he feels up to it. So this is a perfect sort of finish for him. He likes this sort of stiff, sharp climb.
Yes, he's a rider that can perform well on this sort of final today, and he's done it before. He can win sprints out of a very big group, 30, 40 riders, and he can stay in there on this sort of climb to the finish today. So I would say Ventoso is the man for Movistar.
Rocca di Cambio, they begin the climb then. 19.1 kilometres in length. And Farnese Vini give the bottles over. And I think the commissaire is not too worried about that. It should be within the last 20k to hand out any sort of bottles. But today, it's up to the race organisers and the commissaires to say, well, it's too hot, we need to keep hydrating these guys. Somebody was asking a question about this. Does Navadauskas having a drink of Coke from one of these small little tins? Is it normal? Yeah, it's quite common. it's very often the case. It gives them there's quite a lot in Coke, which is reasonably good for recovery or this sort of thing, but it's also just a different taste, and it's a familiar taste to so many people, a comforting taste for athletes. Nice to see somebody from a different team having a good go. The man who is really suffering for Rabobank is Dennis van Vunden, who has almost been dropped off the back a couple of times. This is Stef Clement, the Dutch national time trial champion, putting in a big dig. He came into the Giro d'Italia in very good form, Sean. A little bit disappointing in the individual time trial, but he's been going well on the road.
Yes, and to be able to ride off the front of the bunch here, you have to be feeling good first of all. He probably feels that, yes, about 18 kilometres to the finish, he can time trial this and hold off the peloton.
Yep, that's what he's hoping. It's not going to happen, but he's hoping.
It's a dream.
Oh, indeed. Well, I think Rabobank not quite sure what they're going to do. They have to try things. Theo Bos was almost outside of the time limit yesterday, short at 39 seconds inside. We've seen nothing of Tom Schlachter at all. He was the man who got kiboshed a couple of years ago, if you remember, on the Strada Bianchi. Was it last year or the year before on the Strada Bianchi? Year before? No, last year, in the dry. He got caught up in somebody's musette and got yanked off the bike at high speed. Tom Schlachter was down for ages. Graham Brown's a sprinter. Van Vinden's been up right off the back. Tom Lisa is a lead-out man. Boss is, you saw what happened to him yesterday, 39 seconds inside. Garate is their only real all-rounder. Might see him come to the front. We have no idea what his form is like. He says it is. And again, Renshaw is another of the sprinting guys. And already riders going off the back here, Sean. Now Colnago decide to bring their might towards the front. Stefano Perazzi here, look, second in line. As you suggested. Perazzi and is it Brambilla? Locatelli. Wasn't looking particularly. I was wondering who the second one was. Or whether it really was Sean's prediction of Stefano Perazzi. He's in the middle of this group now, Perazzi, as they pass Stef Clement. Romain Kreuziger. Asserting authority? Looks like it.
Yes, he's speaking with the Lichtgas rider there, and he's saying, what's happening here? What's
going on?
What's the rush? And we can see there is a bit
of a big rush.
There's a big rush on because there's a lot of action on the front of the bunch here, and it's causing problems. As we can see, a lot of splits in the group, and this is not going to be good for our leader today, Mallory, because he would much prefer a steadier pace on the bottom of the climb and then speed up gradually. He doesn't like that sudden acceleration, and that's what we're having here immediately, so it's going to make it a bit more difficult for him to hang in there.
Certainly is. This is Rabottini. Just the one win as a professional, Rabottini. He's not got too many seconds really. 71 seconds, 11 seconds over the Peloton. He's going all right at the moment, but here goes Perazzi. He tried so hard last year. He does love the Giro d'Italia. That's good. Oh, it's great entertainment. They'll let him go as well, Sean, won't they? Because he's no real threat in the overall, and he's desperate to get a stage victory. He tried last year, and he's desperate to try again this year.
Yes, and a rider like Stefano Perazzi, they're going to leave him just right off here. But you ask yourself, what's the point of doing it this moment? If you've got the legs of Perazzi, you just play the waiting game, because still with 16.7 kilometres to go, it's far too much to the finish. And he's the same as last year. He was attacking at times where there was no possibility he could go on and get a stage victory. And here again today, he should wait. As we can see, a lot of sprinters here, Mark Cavendish, and just all getting into the bus, as they call it in cycling terms. Make a bus, and that's what they call the group when you just form a group here at the rear. They know there's no problem for the time delay today because we're only 16 kilometres to the finish, so they're just going to ride up at an easier pace.
I thought I saw a brief glimpse of Alessandro Ballan at the front of that bus there, which would surprise me. May have been wrong, but just a very briefest glimpse as we cut the shot. Well, Rabottini credited with only one professional win in the Tour of Turkey, but I don't think that's the case actually. I think he won a stage in the Baby Giro as well for under 23s. So I've got a feeling he's won 2 victories as a professional, but the man may be wrong with that. I've got a feeling he won 1 stage in the Baby Giro. Did he win one in the Tour of Turkey last year? That's what they're crediting him with. Yeah, he did. He won one in the... I'm sure he did. Stage 5? Stage 5, I think, in the Tour of Turkey last year. But I think he also won one in the Baby Giro. He's still out ahead at the moment. The bus is going to be pretty big today, I would imagine, Sean. So that sort of finish.
Yes, well, what we see of, if you call it the number 1 bus, it was quite big.
They all come in 3s, Sean.
Which contained Mark Cavendish, and there was at least 40, 45 riders there, so it was almost full at that point.
Yes, the conductor will be turning away people from that bus to the next one. Mountains classification leader Rubiano in the centre of this bunch, and they're going at a reasonable lick. They knocked a bit of the pace off, but not much. They want to keep the pace going, and Pirazzi has gone past Selvaggi, and he's now aiming for Matteo Rabottini, who is still up the road. Nobody will be more pleased for Stefano Pirazzi if he takes a stage win than myself. He provided this with fab entertainment last year. Running speed Campag being used. Some teams using, of course, EPS, the electronic Campag system, which is Movistar and so forth. I think I can't remember who else is using it, if anybody, but Movistar definitely using it. I understand it's extremely reliable. Very, very good. Filippo Pozzato.
And where is this?
Yeah, this looks bus-like as well, Sean, to me.
It does look very much like a bus, and surprising to see that Pozzato is not hanging in there or able to hang in, because this finish I thought he would be certainly a candidate for a stage here.
"25 seconds is the gap now between Rabottini and Pirazzi. Nice to see if Pirazzi can do something. He really enlivened us last year, put a real smile on our face, Sean, just because he was so active, not necessarily at the right time, but you just knew after a certain time that it was going to be Pirazzi who was on the attack. As soon as you saw a Colnago jersey, you thought, oh yeah, here he goes again.
Yes, and he certainly when he arrives in the group, he always attacks, and he makes the racing certainly exciting, because when there's a lot of tactics being played, and we could see there in the bunch, there were a few attacks, and then suddenly I think they started to look at each other, and Pirazzi was the one who throws in the big attack, and now we see the one from Lamprey going there, Agnoli. He's also off in the attack here, and that will start to pull out the bunch here, stretch it out, because we could see they were very much grouped together, and that says that it's not going at a real fast pace in the bunch. Obviously they're in difficulty.
Yeah, Mallory is now off the back of the peloton. Pace going just too much for him, as you said, Sean. He's got to just hang in at his own pace, but that's the end of the pink jersey day today for Adriano Mallory. He won't be in the pink jersey at the end of the day. He's already disappeared off the back. It was Valerio Agnoli from Liquigas, very good climber, climbs quickly in this sort of climb. He went off the front. Looks like he's now being chased by 2 riders as well. Pirazzi will be seeing Rabottini shortly. Let us not forget that Pirazzi won the mountains classification in Tirreno Adriatico this year. He has been in good form earlier in the year, coming into the Giro d'Italia, but he could have just dropped off. As an elite rider, before he turned professional, he had quite a few victories. A lot of racing in Spain, but hasn't won a road stage as a professional since he turned pro, 3 years back, something like that. But he has taken the victory in the mountains classification in Tirreno Adriatico, so he certainly isn't too bad at the climbing here. There's Agnoli, and he has with him for company Pietro Poli, I think. Yes, that would look like Pietro Poli, Daniele Pietro Poli of Lampre. And the other rider in the little counter-attack here is Harada from Movistar. Harada's going well. Scarponi coming up towards the front, sit in the group here and just dictate some of the pace. Koenigo quite hard on the far right hand side near the curbstone. Herbert Dupont is the AG2R man sitting in the middle of the group. Now Dupont, I think, is probably a better bet than Gadre at the moment in terms of his abilities to perform in this Giro d'Italia. He's a good climber. He seems to be in better form. And Pirazzi goes past Rabottini. Rabottini will know how that Pirazzi has the power to keep going on a climb like this, and he'll take a little chance to, if he can, get a breather, Sean, if the pace isn't going too fast for him.
Yes, well, he will try and just sit on the wheel of Pirazzi for as long as possible. But again, he's been out there for a long time, and I think the fresher man coming up out of the bunch is going to have problems, as you can see here. Pirazzi, the way he climbs as well, Pirazzi, he climbs in sudden bursts. He kind of up the pace, I think, and then he settles down. He makes another burst, so he's a difficult one. If you're starting to suffer, he's a difficult one to follow.
He is a terribly difficult one to follow. Doesn't like it at all. Well, the other people won't like it at all. And not a nice sort of rider to have to follow. That's Santalamita, I think. Looks like him. And things are beginning to shake up a little bit here on the front, Sean. Twos and threes getting away, and each team noticing they haven't got a man there and giving it a go. The pace is not super high, just high enough to allow people to get away. And Yevgeny Petrov is the next man away. This is Adriano Malori sitting and riding around with Christian Meyer, two big engines there. Katusha sending a man out at front as well, Angel Vicioso. Now that's a good rider to get in this little group to break away. Jan Bakeland's in there as well. Back with the chasing rider, this is Harada, who is going very, very well. I thought he looked very comfortable indeed. And look at the way he's eaten up the gap between himself and Pirazzi and Rabottini here, Sean. This is impressive. Yes,
he's at that, coming across that gap very quickly, and he's looking good at the moment, but still over 12 kilometres to finish. The interesting one, we could see Scarponi coming to the front of the bunch there, and he was just trying to calm things down. It looked like he just was trying to slow the front end of the bunch down, so I wonder what's the reason there. But again, the advantage, I think, here at the moment, it's not anything major where they could go on, because if we see more attacks coming out of the front of the bunch, I think they could eat into the advantage here. As we can see that there's a scatter of riders in this corner, and we can see the main bunch coming at the moment, so it's only 5-8 seconds on advantage to our leaders.
Agnoli with Pietro Poli, I think, in his wheel. Scattered a bit. Basso was saying this morning there might be 30-40 riders up towards the top. Pirazzi with Rabottini and Harada, who's closed that gap very nicely indeed. Pirazzi He's going to give it a go. He wants to try and shed these guys. And as you say, Sean, he climbs in bursts, climbs with a bit of a kick. I mean, if the riders who are following can't stay with it, that's hard lines on them, but it's not going to bother Hesjedal very much. He came up really well to them before. Kicking away like that, Perazzi is just going to use his energies up, and Hesjedal's just going to sit in there. Didn't bother him at all. Agnoli, Pietropoli, and I think Santaramita behind. And the peloton is what, 100 meters or so back, Sean? 120 meters? Not a huge amount.
No, not a huge amount. We can see the peloton all the time there, and maybe 15 seconds of an advantage out front. And you know, it's still a long ways. 11 kilometers, an uphill finish, and it's uphill all the time. So there's going to be more fireworks out of the main bunch. But against, you know, the teams that are represented, we can see Lamprey, Liquigas are up there, and that will calm the situation from those teams. But again, there's a lot of other teams, I think, who have missed it here. As we can see, Radio Shack, one we haven't seen anybody up there going to be, you know, pushed. And the director sportive is going to say, guys, be careful. There's some of the bigger teams with men going off the front. Don't allow them to get too much of an advantage.
That's Jan Bakkelens on the front for Radio Shack Nissan, and just behind for Astana, Kevin Sildrez. .11 kilometers, 11.5 kilometers to go. Hesjedal looking very, very comfortable. Gets back up to Perazzi again. Whoop! Another attack out of the front, and this time it's Emanuele Sella. 2 minutes and 46 seconds. Now this is where people will not want Lam to go. They know Sella has a climbing pedigree. Even if he has a pedigree that you won't particularly want to remember on some occasions. He's always been a good climber. Regarding his doping history, that's another matter. He can still climb. And look at the way that Cunego shut that one down very quickly, Sean. Doesn't want that one to go anywhere.
No, a rider like Sella, you don't allow him to take, 100 metres, 150 metres from the bunch, because he's a one who can climb so well, and to pull him back later, it's going to be difficult. And of course, with Lamprey, they have a man out front, so they're blocking a little bit here at the moment, and they're going to control. And any of the better climbers have a go. I think they will try and keep the lid on things.
Absolutely. Here's another one looking on the right hand side of the road is Jose Rujano. We'd already mentioned might be a guy who can go today. He's actually a lot better in these power climbs than people give him credit for such a small man. He packs a big punch on these big rolling climbs, and just look at the way that 2 or 3 attacks have just eaten up Santoromita, Pietropoli and Agnoli. They've all disappeared. Katusha wanted to keep a lid on the top with Vicioso. Rojano looks behind. Very attentive Roman Koisiger there, Sean. He's very worried about that. Look at that. And I don't see hide nor hair of how far back is Ivan Basso hit? Where is Rodríguez? He's got to be somewhere, but there's still a long way to go. At 10.5 kilometers.
Yes, it's a long ways out, and to sit up here in the front, it's good to be able to do it. If you're really riding well, you can sit in 3rd, 4th position, as we see cruising they're doing. But again, you can also sit back there in 10th, 15th position. You can see what's happening up front and just play the waiting game. And I think there's a lot of riders still there in that group who are doing that, and just sit back and allow the others to attack on the front of the group, and to just follow the situation. And you can do that for, there's a long way to go on this climb, and there's a lot of opportunities and a lot of time to go in the attack.
Pietropoli gets caught, passed and dropped out of the back. So long for Matteo Rabottini. He has nothing left in the tank, and I'm afraid the peloton will catch him pretty quickly. It's Hesjedal. Whoop, another attack coming out of the front from the Androni team. This time it's Ochoa. Look at it. Carlos Jose Ochoa.
I think within the Androni team, they're under orders. They're just attack after attack, and I think Savio is on the radio and saying, guys, come on, this is the moment you have to go on the attack, because we've seen 3 different riders from Androni going on the attack in the last kilometre.
Well, they did love a second stage victory, would Androni. We are inside the last 10 kilometres of this stage 7 with Carlos Jose Ochoa on the attack from Androni. We've had little digs by Jose Rujano and Emanuele Sella, and the order is definitely coming out from Gianni Savio to give it a go. There's two consequences, Sean, from doing that. It means that everybody else has to chase on after if they're after the stage victory, and their main man for the pink jersey, Rubiano, who's not very far down, is likely to be able to sit there for a little bit longer, not necessarily undetected, but unworried.
Yes, well, the more difficult it is, I think, for the Androni team, that is the better chance they have of maybe taking the pink jersey of race leadership this evening, because with Rubiano there at 30 seconds, if you really make it difficult, well, Hesjedal, they can see as well if he's a little bit struggling in the bunch here. Well, the tactic would be just keep on attacking, keep the pace real high, and try and put him into difficulty.
Visconti at the back of this group, also climbing well. Enrico Bataglin is just ahead of Frank, just behind Frank Schleck. Just ahead of Frank Schleck is Gianluca Brambilla, also another decent climber here. Roman Kreuziger keeping himself really close to the front and really close to the wheel of Domenico Pozzovivo of the Carrera team in the all blue. Not here, but just a little bit further back out of your shot. He's coming through now behind the Lamprey rider Niemiec, Scarponi, and then Niemiec back a little bit further into the bunch is Brambilla. Roman Kreuziger, Czech rider, was often given a bit of a hard time in his early career. He comes from quite a wealthy family, and that isn't very common in cycling, or at least it didn't used to be. Certainly has always been seen as a sport of the people, of the masses, of the workers, rather than anything else. But there have been some notable exceptions. Vicentini, we were talking about earlier, was a very wealthy man, independently wealthy. And Roman Kreuziger comes from a very well-to-do family as well, so he was given a bit of a hard time. But no, he didn't train enough and didn't need to do it hard enough. But certainly proving people wrong. You can see Rodríguez at the bottom of your shot. Rodríguez, number 111 in the red jerseys of Katusha, is sitting behind Moreno, his teammate, another very, very good climber. So they're well positioned at the moment, Sean.
Yes, and we can see Ryder Hesjedal also just to the left of Rodríguez there, shot a moment ago. We can see Basso is sitting there in a real good position, and all the big favourites seems to be just here and waiting. And what will the tactic be? It's a Katusha at the moment are pushing it on, and of course we know if they can get Rodríguez into a position the last kilometre, well, then he is the real danger one, because an uphill finish like this, he is probably the strongest one in this peloton.
Basso gently slides past Scarponi, who gives him a little glance. It's Carlos Ochoa still on the front, setting the pace of the peloton. Seems to have settled into a little bit of more of a rhythm, Sean. No more attacks at the moment coming out.
Well, I think if the pace is real high, well, then it puts attacking out a lot of the riders' minds when it slows down, and we did see that on the earlier part of the climb. A number of kilometres further back the road, there was riders just attacking, and that when it was going that bit slower. Just
behind Frank Schleck, a first glimpse of Jean Gadret. There he is, moving up now. Gadret looks like he's going to get a little closer to the front, getting ready for a dig, one would think. There he is. Cyclocross rider on the right-hand side of your shot. With the jersey, the white jersey of AG2R down to his navel, the big gold medallion on his chest. Oh dear, oh dear.
Soup.
Soup, Geoffrey Soup. Well, Perazzi's doing a nice job for Herrada here, isn't he?
Well, of course, if a rider, wants to make a real strong pace on the front, and you just sit in his wheel and leave him do it. And
Exactly.
I think Perazzi is the one. He doesn't, look around too much, and he doesn't worry about who is sitting in his wheel. He seems to be that type of rider. When he gets out there in front, I think tactically, he just loses all thoughts of that and just gives it everything and rides. And Herrado seemed to be very comfortable earlier on the way he came across to them. So. It's always a danger one if you have a guy in your wheel who's feeling good. You have to try and get him to contribute as well to the pulling on the front.
There is Rubiano in the Blue Mountains classification jersey, a little bit down on the front of the group here at the moment. Romain Kreuziger climbing at the front of a group of his men. Look out for the dark blue jersey a little bit further back. You might see it of Rubiano. A lot of will have been taken out of his legs yesterday. Kreuziger is just riding beautifully, sitting in here. Oh dear. Problems? Ship the chain. Bettini again. So the chain has been unshipped and he has to get back on. And they're back to our main group. And this time the work coming in from Katusha at the front is Vicioso, who's climbing at the front here. If you're just joining us, this is stage 7, the very last 7 kilometers. On stage 7, Rocca di Cambio there on now, which is a long climb, 19 kilometers in length, but it averages only about 6%. There are some kicks up, in fact, at about 14 kilometers. So not that far from now. There's a little bit of downhill. You might see Herrada and Perazzi on the left-hand side getting to it fairly shortly. And then it goes back up again until we get to the 16-kilometer mark. Then quite a sharp downhill for a kilometer or so. But that's the point. Everybody will want to be up towards the front, because after that, it's that short, sharp 1.5 kilometer burst towards the end. Perfect for a Rodriguez. Troya is doing a grand job setting the pace at the front. What the game plan is now for Savio's men is something we don't know yet. Peter Stefner in the white jersey there in the middle, blue helmet. That is the best young rider's jersey. He doesn't actually hold that jersey. He's wearing it on behalf of Adriano Malori today, but Malori is way off the back. By the end of the day, sure, it'll be his by right.
Yes. The position at the moment, he's in there, but again we have to wait and see, because still over 6 kilometres to the finish. I think there could a lot happen here in this final 6 kilometres, but certainly the Androni team, they have a plan of action here to make it real difficult and make it as fast as possible and try and eliminate, drop the riders who are up there in the general classification ahead of their man Rubiano. But we did see Ryder Hesjedal there. He looked to be quite comfortable in the group. We can see him there at the moment, 95, and just sitting there, and doesn't look to be any problems at the moment. But there's so many riders here. There's still 50, 60 riders in this group, and all the big favourites are very much in there and looking comfortable.
Hanu is only at 2:39 back on the general classification. So Fabio Fellin is at 2:16. He could well still be in there. Well, having said that, no, there he is, Fellin, just ahead of Rubiano. He's pacing him. But Fellin is a very good climber. This must be working for Ruhanu then, I think. We'll keep Ruhanu out of trouble. They clearly have noticed that Rubiano, after his stage victory yesterday, is off the back. Interesting riders up towards the front. Pinotti is still here for BMC, so it can't be going. Pinotti can climb pretty well, Sean, but it can't be going absolutely full gas, because if it was, Pinotti would be starting to struggle.
Yes, well, when you look at the bunch, and 50, 60 riders certainly there, that tells us that the pace is not real high. The way they're riding as well, they're very much groove. When it starts to go very fast, well, then it gets stretched out a lot, and they're almost in a single file. As we can see, there's Astana Sidra, so it's taking it up at the moment, and there's nobody able to really up the pace, and I suppose there's still over 5 kilometers to the finish, 5.4. There's still time left where you can really blow this group apart if you put in a real big an injection of pace, but up at big time. Well, then you can blow this group apart. It's probably a bit early for that yet.
You're right. Herrada's beginning to suffer a little bit. Can't stay with the pace of Perazzi. Perazzi clearly feeling as though he can drive it on this flatter section a little bit harder, Sean. But you're absolutely right, actually, that Perazzi is exactly the sort of rider who can just ride and not look around him.
Yes, and we can see here the way he's putting in these big bursts, acceleration, and Herrada was just staying at his pace and coming back to the wheel of Perazzi just slowly, and that's the way to climb as well. If you're that style of climb where you climb at a steady pace, you don't like the sudden up of speed, well then it's the way to do it. And Herrada is not panicking when Perazzi makes it a big burst and takes 2-3 bike lengths from him. He just comes back at his own pace.
Perazzi pushing on. Herrada in his wheel looking very, very good indeed. He's not won anything this year as a professional. He was third, if you remember, in the Tour of the Basque Country Mountains classification. It's a shame we didn't have the Basque Country on Eurosport this year, but just one of those things, so much going on. It's coincided with the World Track Championships as well. He's won a couple of stages in Cintura dell'Emporda a couple of years ago. But Herrada usually just used as a very good climbing domestique rather than anything else. Clearly in good form today. Looks easy coming over to Perazzi, but that may just be his style. 19 seconds. Silvares and the Astana boys doing a good job here. The lead is coming down now, Sean. It was about 29 seconds, and it's tumbling pretty quickly. Perazzi will have to go. He feels he can. Have to put a bit more pressure on.
Well, they ain't time to hang around here. 16 seconds, just under 4 kilometers to go. They have to keep giving it full gas here.
Is Herrada just playing about? Can he go past her? Hasn't he got the legs? This is the question. Gasparotto on the front now. Omega Pharma. Quick step coming up to take some sort of station towards the front. We haven't seen too much of him. Serge Pauls was the rider there. Hasn't shown much form at all, Serge Pauls. Being dropped off the back. Thomas Roriga. Surprising. He's not on a good day. Roriga is a climber. Not having a good day today.
And maybe mechanical.
Possibly.
Yes, we did see just in the flash there was a rider from the team had difficulty, so maybe that was him.
Not the time to have it, if that's the case. One lone Euskaltel rider trying to work his way up towards the front. Only one rider from Radio Shack. Well, this is as the answer, Sean. He's not sandbagging or waiting. Nice, isn't it nice to see a bike with very shallow section rims? Looks really good. Perazzi giving it everything he can, but only 5 seconds. They're almost upon them, and Omega Pharma now having a go. Dario Cataldo was saying this morning, this is a one for me. I want this one. But remember, they've got Mikael Golosh not far off the overall classification. We don't quite know where he is. Velic too can finish on these sort of hills very well, Sean.
Yes, well, there's still a lot of riders, and we haven't seen, we've seen 10, 15 riders on the front end of the bunch, but as you can see, that there's still a very big group of riders, and I think there's a lot of riders who have a chance here of taking the stage victory. And Cataldo, as you said, he is a rider that can just hang in there, and if he gets to the finish also, he is a candidate for this sort of uphill finish.
Yeah, he's targeted today, he says. Do you fancy a go today? 3 from Liquigas, 1 will be Basso. There is the dark blue jersey of the mountains classification rider Rubiano. Not up towards the front, that's for sure. And Garmin push on. They desperately want to get Ryder Hesjedal, by the look of it, into. There is Rubiano just at the back of the group. They want to get Hesjedal into the pink jersey, but they are fighting so hard to stay away here. They've got just a handful of seconds here, Sean. This is the run down towards that last 1.6 kilometers, and Stefano Perazzi is giving it everything he can once again to take a stage victory. And maybe again won't be. Stefano, come on! And Herrada's well, that shows how much he was putting into it. That's surely the end for Perazzi, because to work up that momentum again, go on, get in that big gear and turn it.
He's putting up a great fight here, Perazzi. He's just really pushed it on so much, and just lost that, misjudged that corner and miscalculated, and it'll be interesting to see if he can come back to Gerardo. Gerardo looked to be comfortable all the time, but it's difficult to know the style of rider he is. He's a very smooth rider, and as we come to kilometre to go.
Running up to the 1 kilometre to go. The red kite denoting you've got just 1,000 metres to hold off the rest of the peloton. And Perazzi gives way to the marauding peloton. It's just Herrada out ahead. Well, Perazzi has to be my Giro hero for the day. Once again, great entertainment from Stefano Perazzi, and running off the road in the last 1,400 metres. Herrada is going to get swallowed alive here as Lampre and looks like that's Cunego by the look of it, second in line here, looking for the win. Very difficult to tell. Damiano Cunego looking down with the fluorescent stripes on the Villiers bike of his. Also Scarponi has those stripes as well, but he's not the sort of punchy rider for this, is he? That's it, let's have a look. No, it is, it's Scarponi. It is Michele Scarponi, who is sitting in second spot behind Niemiec, the Polish rider. Frank Schleck up towards the front here. Ryder Hesjedal here. Where is Joaquim Rodríguez is still in with a shout for this one. Trying to pull away is Paolo Tiralongo in the second spot here behind Scarponi, who's going for the win. Scarponi drives to the line. Tiralongo has only had 1 victory in his entire career. Alongside Scarponi, who is one of the big favourites for this. He's going to really try and take some time out of his rivals and take the victory at the same time. 20 seconds to his name. Can Tiralongo stay with him? Because he's got quite a kick, Paolo Tiralongo. If he can stay on the wheel, and Scarponi ups the pace. He always drives a big gear towards the line. Tiralongo still in with a shout though. Still pushing hard. Paolo Tiralongo will now wind it up. If he can get up the inside, he will. This is the steepest part of the finish. Up towards the line comes Scarponi. Now Tiralongo has his chance. Can he sprint past him to take another sprint victory? He's been in great condition. He does. He's going to get past him, and Tiralongo is going to get a second victory ahead of Michele Scarponi. Frank Schleck is third by the look of it. Then it looks like Rodríguez, Hesjedal, Pozzovivo, Moreno, Basso, Nieve. There's Herrada in the middle of that group there, and Perazzi might even finish in that group, who knows. Michele Scarponi beaten into second place, Sean, by Paolo Tiralongo, who's had a very, very good run into this race. He was great in Romandy, really good. Always up there, contesting the sprints even towards the end against, I think he was just pipped by Bradley Wiggins in the sprint, but Scarponi and Tiralongo Paolo takes a second win of his career. He's waited long enough. It took him about 11 years to get one, and now he's got one the next year as well.
Yes, and we remember last year it was with Alberto Contador. I think he was allowed to take stage victory, but certainly today there was no giving there. What, a battle by Tirolongo just to stay in the wheel of Scarponi. He was in difficulty there a number of times, and I thought a bike length and a half. I thought he was going to break, but just held on in there. And as you said, he has that little bit of extra burst in the final.
Yep. Lovely little kick by Paolo Tirolongo. And Romain Koisiga comes to congratulate him. Yeah, a hard old day in the saddle, but that was immense kick by Scarponi. He left all his main rivals behind, Sean, completely.
Yes, he did. Valuable number of seconds there by Scarponi and some of the main rivals.
Paolo Tirolongo started the day at 57 seconds down. He takes off 20 for the win, and then however many seconds they give from the rest of the rivals. So he may be within, 30 seconds or so of the 35 seconds or so of the pink jersey now. Michele Scarponi started at 1:28. He too will gain a little bit, and he gets 12 seconds for the bonus. But that's a great day for Paolo Tirolongo. He now moves up to be probably the best placed man in the GC for Astana.
Yes, well, with the unification, of course, and he will move up a lot in the general classification, as we see again here. Let's see.
It was avoiding action, that's what it was.
Yes, the motorbike was just that little bit too slow or in the way, and just knocked him off his line, and there was nothing he could do.
No, nothing he could do at all. Poor old Stefano Perazzi, but you can see the extra little kick that Paolo Tirolongo has. He got past Scarponi by about 4 bike lengths in the end. Scarponi looking behind to see where everybody else is. He's concerned about how much time he's put into people. Once he knows he's lost the stage, looks over at Tirolongo, and then he realizes that that's the end of his day. There we are. Wait out for the look behind. Are we going to get to see it in a wider shot? No. Tirolongo wins. And at that point, Scarponi, there he is, looks behind to see where everybody else is. Some valuable seconds there, Sean. Valuable indeed.
Yes, well, valuable indeed for Scarponi, because he is one of the big favourites, and Frank Schleck, very good ride as well. He was maybe 2-3 seconds off Scarponi here. Also Hesjedal, he was very close there in the final. He lost maybe 4 or 5 seconds as well, and did a great job to battle and stay up there with the finish that proved to be more difficult than I was expected to be. That final couple of 100 metres was a real leg breaker.
Absolutely. Schleck third, Rodriguez takes fourth, Hesjedal fifth, Pozzovivo sixth. But not bad from Pozzovivo, because he preferred the steeper stuff. Daniel Moreno seventh, Ivan Basso eighth, all at 9 seconds. Schleck at 3, so 5. Yep, well, over say Basso, for example, Michele Scarponi will gain 19, 20, 21 seconds. 12 for 12-second bonus for second place. Nievi it was coming over. 11 seconds back. Eros Kopecky, good ride by him. Serge Pauls seems to be coming into shape as well. That's a very good ride by Serge Pauls. 11 seconds back to Jean Gadret as well. Finally, Jean Gadret seems to be doing something, Sean.
Well, I think today was the day where we should see a bit more of Gadret, because the last week of racing there was no opportunities for him, and that is a good indicator that he's up there and not far off the other big favourites.
Oh, this was the start this morning at Solomona, the most southerly point of the Giro d'Italia this year. We are just south and east of Naples, and it is a beautifully sunny day. However, there's a bit of a breeze going on out there. And early on, riders trying to get away, pull away from the peloton. It wasn't really allowed to go. Nobody was really putting in massive effort, but the breeze that were turned into a headwind by this particular point, they were turning into it, caused some splits in the peloton. A big group trying to get back here. Possibly some other forces involved in that as well, and that was Pippo Pozzato in that group trying to chase back on. The gap was over 6 minutes at one time, but the death of this particular breakaway 4 men in it is the fact that André Amador is in it. Julien Berard at 6 minutes. Minguez from Euskaltel at 1 hour and 8. Marcinski of Vacansoleil 21:19. Amador only at 1 minute and 16 off the pink jersey, so the breakaway not being allowed any time to get away. Just under 60 kilometers to go here in stage 8 of the Giro d'Italia. It's most southerly point running into Lago Lacano, where we last visited in 1998. The win coming for Alex Zülle, the Swiss rider. 4 men in a breakaway, and Julien Berard here was one of them, shaking his fist in the air, not happy. Julien Berard of AG2R Le Mondial, our French colleague Jackie Durand saying today will be the day that AG2R managed to get a win. And here are 3 other breakaway riders. Minguez at 1 hour and 8 minutes from Euskaltel. Amador at 1:16, that's the death knell for the break. And Marcinski, Tomasz Marcinski, the Polish national champion, riding for Vacansoleil. Sean Kelly sitting next to me. Sean, what on earth are they playing at?
I think we have exactly the same situation as we see yesterday. They know this break is not going to have any chance of going on to the finish and getting a stage victory out from the breakaway. So they seem to be attacking each other already again with 58 kilometers to go. Julien Berard from AG2R, I don't know, is he at the end of his energies, or is he just realised that, well, you know, what's the point of going on for another 20 kilometres? I've got enough out of this today and maybe wait for another day. And, you know, that could be the tactic. Maybe the team director said, well, you know, we've got a bit of exposure, being up there on the breakaway now. There's no point in really going too deep today. There's a lot of difficult days to come and possibilities to get into the break again. But you know, they're just attacking each other now. It's the same situation. They just want to stay out as long as possible, and it's, you know, yesterday seems to be the case where, you know, they're just attacking each other. And one rider wanted to get away. They would not ride with each other, and that just says they all want to be the last rider to be caught on the stage.
Yeah, makes you wonder. Makes you wonder. We were on British Eurosport slightly early, and we had an interesting discussion about why people allow that to happen in the break anymore. If you're watching on the international, I'm sure we'll revisit it at some point during the Giro d'Italia, because it does seem a completely different way of racing than perhaps, say, when I first started watching road racing, and certainly when Sean was racing. In the break, if you had a man at 1:16, he'd have turned around and told him in no uncertain terms to get out and go back to the peloton. Right, we'll take a short commercial break. Just over 58 kilometers to go, and 2 men left now. Been quite a windy day here so far on stage 8, certainly breezy, and a big group getting forced off the back at one point of about 30 riders, 35 riders, including Filippo Pozzato, which doesn't look good for him. He finished well down yesterday, over 11 minutes back on the eventual winner, Paolo Tiralongo. Good news for Mark Cavendish fans though. He was well inside the limit yesterday, nobody outside of the limit, but he finished at 17 minutes and 21. There's an awful lot more riders behind him than that. Dennis van Winden, once again, the last person over the line, 23 minutes and 27 seconds down, along with Kozinski. Daniele Bernati was third from last over the line, and he has withdrawn from the race today. Bernati not feeling well at all, apparently. Francesco Chicchi, Taylor Finney was at 23:07, and Giacomo Nizzolo, who's been very disappointing, actually, was at 23 minutes and 27 seconds. A lot of the sprinters down that end. And a little gaggle of Sky riders finishing at 21 minutes and 47. Ian Stannard, Geraint Thomas, Peter Kenyuk and Jeremy Hunt all finishing there as well. But Cavendish finishing at 17:20-21 along with Bernard Eisel. Another man who's not having a great Giro d'Italia so far, Sean, is he just waiting for the opportunity to go for a harder stage? I think he might be, because I don't think he has an overall chance. It's Ahmed Cheruka.
Well, I think there's a lot of riders waiting, and when the race will really settle down after today, we'll have general classification. There'll be a lot of riders if you go down in the classification. When you go down to about the 100th position, well, that's around 20 minutes down at the moment, so that'll be probably maybe 25 minutes this evening. And that is the opportunity then for those riders who are that distance down. Certainly they can ride away in breaks, but there will be riders who will manage to get into the breaks at 8-10 minutes down on general classification, a group of 6 or 8 riders, and that's where Chiruka, the difficult stages, the mountain stages, exactly. He will have a go, and a lot of the riders are playing the waiting game and just looking at the route every day and just saying, well, today you can get into the break, but it's going to be controlled by Garmin Barracuda, and if the riders get into the break that are not a long ways down the general classification and has no way of surviving, and we've seen the answer here today with Amador, but as you go further on, well, I think we will get breaks where the guys will be the closest to being general classification, 8 or 10 minutes, and it goes on from there. That's such opportunity. You have a great opportunity going on and go for the stage victory, and it's all about being good on that occasion, because get into the break first of all, but you have to be real good in the final. So just to win a stage, you have to be so calculating in this race and conserve all your energies, as the general classification men have to do. And we heard about that. We heard Alan Piper talking about it. The last week is difficult, and the other big favourites, they're all talking about the last week is very difficult. So it's for the favourites important that they keep their powder dry as much as possible, but also for guys like a Chiruka who can take a stage victory in the big mountains or the medium mountain stages.
Only in the Giro would you get pictures of nuns at the side of the road preaching to the convented, I suppose, is the phrase for that. It's terrible, isn't it? It's one of those days. It is Sunday day today, definitely. Riding up towards the front once again, all the Liquigas boys looking after Ivan Basso. Ivan Basso shown yesterday, I think he finished pretty well, more than I expected. He was right up towards the top, only 9 seconds down on Paolo Tiralongo, and that means only 6 seconds down on Frank Schleck. Ryder Hesjedal just ahead of him, so Ivan Basso doing a very good job yesterday.
Yes, a good performance by Basso yesterday, because again, he's not a rider that likes these short finishes, and the one yesterday, I know it climbed up, but it was very gradual, and of course we had a group of 50 plus riders in the last number of kilometres. It's just the final couple of 100 metres really kicked up, and Basso doesn't like that. He likes to climb it more a regular climb, where to be steep for quite a number of kilometres. And when he could just stay up there in that position yesterday, it's an indicator that he's going well, and I think he's on the right road, because coming into this Giro he hadn't done a lot. His early part of the season didn't go maybe as he would have expected, but he's been building and getting ready with Giro in mind all the time, and I think it's coming right at the right moment.
Yes, I think you're absolutely correct, Sean. I mean, it's been interesting to watch him getting better and better and better. Just before the Giro he was in much better shape, and definitely riding himself in. It's helped, hasn't it, that this is a more traditional race, in the sense, Sean, that we've got a flattish first week, and riders like Basso, who's not quite on top form, Frank Schleck, who's had some time off the bike and said he needed 7 or 8 days to start coming good. These riders are coming in and riding themselves into form. Now, they will have known the parcours the route for the Giro d'Italia for quite a long time. Is it that calculated? Are they really calculating that much, or does the modern demands of racing mean that they've got to be fit all the time? Because Basso has certainly got to the stage where he's riding himself in well, and so Schleck.
Well, first of all, it depends what the first week is like, and if you haven't been, biggish mountains in the first week, well, then it's always dangerous. If you're not coming in with, close to your 100% shape, you can get caught out. But also, if it's a flat start like we had this year, we hope in Denmark, if you get the windy conditions, and which means you get very difficult racing, well, then it's also real dangerous, and probably more dangerous for Basso in a situation like that, as it would be for Scarponi, which we see on our screen here at the moment. So they have come out, really good out of this race. All the big favourites and everybody in the race. If you look at the start this morning, we had 193 riders. Benati dropping out 192 riders at this moment, and we had 198 starters. After 7 days of racing. If you look back at some of the other big tours, the Tour of France last year, if you look back at the Giro, I think in the past number of years as well, there will be a lot more riders gone home already, and that's the reason. The good weather conditions, it's made the race and that little bit more relaxed. And for Basso, it's just turned out perfect for him, because if you're in form 3 or 4 weeks before the Giro, sometimes the first 2 weeks you can ride really well, but the last week you start going downhill, and then it's very difficult with this final week. So, Basso, his timing is, pretty much bang on. Schleck is the same situation. He off the bike for 7 days, he says, and then no plan to come here. And this last week of racing will do Schleck a world of good. Good weather conditions, warm weather, which is good to bring the form on a bit quicker. And Schleck has no excuse. Even not having his brother is not an excuse.
We heard him.
He'll have to call Daddy and come down Johnny for a couple of days.
Yeah, we caught a little interview with him. He very touchingly saying we're stronger riders together than apart. I beg to differ, Frank. You may well think so, but the evidence might point the other way, sadly. But he's looking very good, I have to say. Whatever the distractions are or not, as the case may be, he is looking rather good at the moment. Number 92 needing to cool down just a little bit. There is Sebastian Rosler, he of the twin earrings. Kevin Seldrez. And Astana, always, to me, for a shortish rider, always looks like his bike's too small. Kevin Seldrez. These are our two remaining men out of front. Andre Amador, the Costa Rican, who I understand's got a Russian mother, which is why he's called Andre. That's what I understand. We had Tomasz Marcinski, the Polish national road champion. And around the outside there for nice MotoGP style.
And the weather conditions for Amador, nice conditions the first week. I think he would prefer that than the rain and the wind.
I think he's looking forward to today in the sun. Right, we'll take a short break. We're not that far off the 50-kilometre mark here in stage 8. Welcome back. A little bit of a strike going on here. A bit of a workers' protest. They're waving the red flag there. Not sure what it is. I'm sure there's a Communist Party flag or whatever. Still pretty big socialism here. And having all sorts of problems keeping people back from the road. There we go. Here come the police. Go on, hold them back. As this is Marcinski and Marcinski and Amador come through. Give them their right to protest. I'm not really sure what the protest is about. There we are. You've been subject to the odd strike now and again, Sean, in your racing career.
Certainly has. Have been, yes. I've seen a few of them in my time, and this one is a pretty mild one because the number of people there. I think the police will, be able to take control of it and keep them to the side of the road. But I have seen it in the mid-80s in the Tour of France and also in the Tour of Spain where, they just totally blocked the road. And I remember one year the Tour of France actually we were going along this road and the trees at the side, they put a big chain across just before the Peloton arrived in the cars. And they tied it from tree to tree so no cars go through. It was well organised. It didn't cause danger to the riders or anything, but it meant that the front number of cars, they did it at the last moment, like 2 or 3 minutes before the Peloton arrived, they just pulled it across the road, had it tied at one side already, and then put a snap lock on the other side and held it up for a long time, and that's what you call, I suppose, a real strike.
That's the and of course Bernardino is what you call a real strike breaker. Was it Paris-Nice? It was Paris-Nice where he, I think, we came across was it a Dockers strike, I seem to remember. Yes,
and it was a huge strike as well, and they stopped all the cars, and we're in a group of about 25-30 riders in the front, and Eno just rode straight into everybody. I remember there was I was in the front end of the group in the top 10, and as we were coming to the strike, I could see the road was totally blocked, and Bernardino just speeded up and rode straight into the people were striking, and then started throwing punches.
He did as well. He's never really changed his Bernardino. I tell you, there is somebody, I haven't got it on sadly here with me, somebody I'm sure will tweet it so I can retweet it. There is a magnificent black and white photograph of Bernardino just about to lamp somebody really hard, and also Phil Anderson being a rough Aussie as well. He was giving it some, which was good. So the strikers were getting what for? I don't think they expected it. There's a poor man standing in front of Eno going, no, please don't hit me, and then Eno was having none of it. And your countryman Stephen Roach looking very sheepish on the outside of the photograph, thinking, oh, I don't want to get involved in that. Scared, I think. Yeah, somebody find it. That black and white shot with Eno with his arm raised, just about to give somebody a right good wallop. But yeah, that's a minor protest, because it always causes problems on a narrow bit of road.
And Eno has lost it, of course. We see 2 years ago in the Tour of France when there was, I think, was it somebody was striking or just a...
Yes, it was a protester.
Yes.
Yep.
He actually managed to get up on the podium because he got one of these high-vis jackets, and he made his way to the podium just before or during the prize presentation, and Eno reacted very quickly and just threw him off the podium.
Literally pushed him off the podium. There's a drop of about 8 feet, and he just didn't care. He was wallop, gone. Excellent. He's never changed.
So if you're in a sportive with Le Blaireau, don't get into a discussion with him.
Absolutely.
Because now he's back on his bike, of course, and he's doing a lot of biking, and he's actually doing a sportive in Ireland, I think.
Is he?
I think in the month of, I think sometime in June.
Oh, well, we'll have to find out. If anybody knows, tweet it, we'll retweet it. Excellent. Now, I was quite happy to see firsthand how Le Blaireau looks when he gets past and doesn't want to. A couple of years ago in the Pyrenees when Sean and I rode up, and Sean was slightly bushwhacked by Marcel Tinazzi, and he got given a single-speed bicycle to ride up from about 1910. He had all the gear on as well, and passed Eno on the way near the top, because Eno was with a bunch of his own people. I was just behind Sean and all the other guys who were going up. I saw the look on Eno's face. It looked like thunder. He didn't like being passed at all, especially on a bike with one gear that weighed 3 times as much as his. But great group of guys at the top as well. Here we come to the protest, all held back by the superbly clad Italian police force, one has to say. And no problems. Through they go. Yes, a small protest. But they've made their point. That's all they really needed to do. They've got on the television. No big stunts. And the gap is at 4 minutes and 38 seconds with 48 kilometres to go. A lot of people citing the 1 minute per 10 kilometre rule in the last couple of days. It is a rule that we penned here at Eurosport about 3 years ago for people to try and calculate at home how many minutes you would require if you were in a breakaway to stay ahead of the peloton, roughly. It's a rule of thumb, and it works on largely flat stages. More stages with maybe a couple of small rises in it, but it don't work on stuff like today, because you've got a large climb at the end, and you have to factor in a lot more of that. We should really work out some sort of coefficient that people can deal with. But I don't think he's going to stay away at all today. Let's think about this. Taylor Phinney dropping off the back here. Pozzato is back in the main group with his bunch of cohorts who managed to pedal their way back. Let's just look at this last climb today, Sean. We had a little bit of archive at the top when Eurosport International joined us, as Marczynski pushes on a little bit. Amador is... there'll be any love lost if Amador gets dropped off the back there. They won't worry about that too much. It's getting a bit lumpy towards the end, the last 50. But Sean, the climb at the end, I mean, actually the last 50 kilometres is tough, full stop, but the last climb itself, it's only like the curate's egg. It's good in parts, shall we say.
Well, first of all, I think, when you get into the last 50 kilometres, it's a lot of up and down, and There's sections where it kicks up for quite a bit, but nothing majorly steep. But we can see the riders that are very tired. Fatigue is a big problem, and we see Finney there. We also see Julian Bernard, who was out in front. He's also at the rear end of the bunch and losing contact. So there's a lot of riders, going to suffer here already. And it's just that the warm conditions, I suppose, seems to be hitting them big time in the last 2 days. But the final climb is where we will see the big battle, the big favourites. There's nothing going to happen between the favourites before that, and it will all depend again. We did see yesterday at the beginning of the climb there was a lot of action. There was attack left, right, centre. They were going everywhere and it looked good, but then we see Kreuziger coming to the front, and he started talking, and it seemed to settle down a bit then, and they rode for quite a bit at a more steady pace. But again today it's not going to be a problem for the big favourites if they ride it pretty normal. But again, if they just go really hard at it and the steep section, for some reason there's a lot of attacks, well then we could see some of the big favourites getting into difficulty. But I doubt it very much, because that last 4 kilometres, if you do take 20-30 seconds, very difficult to hold on to the finish. So I think the big favourites, they will be all waiting and watching each other, because they know to get the stage victory is going to be difficult. But it's the riders who want to go for a stage and who are not in the general classification, who are a good rider in a mountain finish, and they will definitely have a big go here today.
Yeah, I think Hesjedal will be somewhere near the front again today. It is one of those guys you can go very hard at the bottom of the climb. There's Andre. This is our Dutch colleagues, and Josie de Car there. Give us a wave. We'll take a break. "45 kilometres to go." Gets a bit lumpy now as we head up towards the finish at Lago Lacano. These two are left by themselves. Andre Amador at 1 minute and 16 seconds. Clearly gunning for something today, but not sure how the others would have felt about him. Julien Berard was certainly not very happy when they started attacking each other with 58 kilometres to go. He wasn't in the slightest bit happy. The other man in the breakaway here with the white jersey on is actually the Polish national champions jersey. You'll see the Polish flag in the middle of it. Is Tomasz Marcinski. Marcinski, a very good all-round rider. We used to see him being lashed by rain in the Tour of Poland, as was its wont, year after year. Certainly the last 3 or 4 years. Riding from Vacansoleil. He's been on the deck a couple of times, Marcinski. Freedom tough in Poland. The archive shot we had earlier on of the finish today, or the archive footage we had with Alex Zülle winning, will show you exactly what it was like today. The slopes themselves very fast at the bottom. You could ride really hard into it. There's a 3.5 kilometre section in the middle that is steep, and that is where Marco Pantani attacked in 1998 to try and get away. But he never really shed. It's still not steep enough to really shed some of the strong climbers who can deal with stuff of that sort of shorter length. There's Mark. Too close to the old cameraman there. Give you an indication of the sort of riders who were chasing Pantani and managing to just hang on enough to gain some advantage again towards the top. Alex Zülle, we've already talked about, although he came from behind actually to get past the two chasing riders, who were Luc Leblanc, riding for Polti at the time, and the other rider was Michele Bartoli, who was in the pink jersey. Bartoli leading the rest of them home for second, and Pantani finishing fourth. Pantani, of course, went on to win and the Tour as well. Last man to do that double. Five minutes and 9 seconds is our gap, and really, can you expect the sort of jostling at the bottom like we saw yesterday, Sean? We just briefly touched on it just now, with 5, 6, 7 favourites going into it very, very hard. Maybe not quite as hard as yesterday. I think there was nervousness yesterday. I don't know about you. And Pirazzi when he went off the front, sort of for some reason sparked a little bit of nervousness, and they went off like a shot out of a barrel.
Well, I think it was nervous beforehand, leading to the climb, and before Pirazzi went in the attack, there was quite a number of attacks, and we did see a few of the guys, you know, who were a bit dangerous in the general classification, having a go, and that lasted for a short time. You know, 2 kilometres, maybe 2.5 kilometres, and then they seem to cool down again. So I doubt it very much today if we will see a lot, because with the finish being 4 kilometres flat at the top, it's not going to, I don't think, make them favourites, never, certainly. But they will be riders. If they pull this gap back quite a bit more, it's 5 minutes at the moment, so the two out front are working quite well. They're holding on to the advantage. I thought it would be coming down a bit more, but again, it's probably the calculation of the bunch, and they know that on the final climb what they can take back from the leaders. But again, they often get it wrong, and sometimes the calculation, the rider is much stronger than they feel, and we could see, like, if Amador could be very, very, very strong in the final climb, and he could go on for a long time, because if they can hold this for another 15, 20 kilometres, or get onto the last climb with 4 minutes, well then it is possible that we could see a lone rider staying out in front. But again, we can see there's more teams getting involved now. Katusha coming up there, and they're certainly for Rodríguez. They probably think that he can do something today.
I think he'll have a great deal of trouble to do something today. It's pretty fast over the top, and actually staying away on the other side is very difficult. If you're a rider like Rodríguez, if you've got any bigger, stronger riders like Ryder, Hesjedal, who you drop a little bit on that climb, they will come back at you over the top if they've got the legs, because they'll just keep themselves under control, climb at their own pace, and they'll just come flying over the top and onto the plateau.
But if you can get to the finish, Rodríguez, Schleck, Scarponi, Hesjedal, Basso, well then Rodríguez, he's a good puncher in a finish, and I think that could be the calculation. He's very difficult to ride away on your own and hold the group off. That's a big ask today with the style of finish, and that final 3.5 kilometres, 4 kilometres pretty much flat. But again, if they can make it real difficult where they really explode the bunch and blow it to pieces, well then Rodríguez is he's a better sprinter of the favourites.
Absolutely. Although, having said that, I would like to see how Paolo Tirolongo goes again today, if he's not used it all up yesterday, because today's route is not dissimilar to some of the ones in the Tour of Romandie that we saw. These sort of steady power climbs, and then a steep bit, and then a power climb over the top. And we saw we saw twice groups of climbers contesting a sprint. One won by Bradley Wiggins. He moved a sprint to the first road stage he's ever won.
Yes.
And he's a contender for the Tour de France. I mean, it might be an interesting situation if Tirolongo gets over the top. He too's got a bit of a kick.
Yes, but I think Roman Kruisinga will be pushing his foot down today and saying to the team director, Tirolongo has to start working now. We don't want to win more stages, and that is very possible from the leader, because if you allow a domestique, which Tirolongo has been all his career until he won his stage last year, he won no race as a professional, and it's not surprised me with the Italian attitude, the tactic, that they might start using a bit more and make him do something today. If there's an occasion where Kruisinga want to push on, I'd not be surprised if we see Tirolongo being one of the ones, because he's able to do that on a finish like today, uphill, final 14 kilometres. He can really set a very fast pace and make it very, very difficult for everybody, and if they want to really limit the size of the group getting to finish, well, he's one rider capable of doing that.
Thanks to everybody who's tweeted that picture. It is a fantastic picture. I think the picture's better than there are some bits of video as well, which I will just here we go. I shall retweet that as well, but I actually think that the picture's better, the photograph is better. Well, already some riders having a bit of problem. It looks like that Brian Bulgak being tailed off. Oh, would that be Theo Boss disappearing off the back of the peloton? And Mark Cavendish finished pretty well yesterday. Even Stannard just in front of it. Jeremy Hunt just behind him. Hunt's had a very long, fruitful career, starting with Banesto. Just a shade over 4 minutes. Here's the gap. We're coming basically towards the end of today's stage. And some of the big favourites getting up towards the front now. 14.2 kilometres is the final climb of the day, going up towards Lago Luceno, but you essentially rise up the side of the mountain and then run along the ridge at the top for a kilometre or so, just under a kilometre, before a little tiny kick up and then down onto a plateau. It's not a hugely hard climb. It'll be interesting to see just how fast they go. Will they mark each other, or will somebody decide to put the hammer down? Scarponi wanted to attack yesterday. It's his sort of climb actually today. We'll have to see how far they go. Basso too will mark him very, very closely. Michele Scarponi, we caught up with him this morning. Here's Philippe Sellier asking him questions.
Oggi è una tappa difficile, viene
today's a very
dopo
difficult stage.
una tappa di 229 km, dopo due tappe dure e lunghe. Questa è la terza dura e lunga. La partenza è veramente impegnativa e l'arrivo
toughness and
è
its
tosto.
length, it's
Vediamo
quite a
un po',
hard
secondo
start.
me andrà via una fuga e
And the finish is
la
very tough.
Garmin vorrà
We'll see,
tenere la
according to me, I
maglia,
think there'll be a breakaway, he says.
La
Fuga.
Garmin vorrà tenere la maglia.
Garmin
Gli
will
uomini in
try and
classifica si controlleranno
control
nel
things to keep the pink jersey.
Hier, tu as été l'un
And
des
the
premiers
contenders
favoris
will
à
be
allumer la
right
mèche.
there.
La meilleure défense,
Yesterday,
c'est
attacking the
l'attaque.
final climb is your best
Sì,
attempt defense
sì,
attack.
chiaramente ieri
Yeah,
era un
sounds like
arrivo
yes.
abbastanza complicato e
quite a
volevo stare
tricky,
davanti per non
complicated
perdere
finish.
secondi. Io sono riuscito ad affrontare l'ultimo chilometro
You
nelle
have to make
primissime
sure you don't lose
posizioni
too
e
many
ho provato
seconds,
ad
so I
approfittare
decided
della
in the
situazione.
last kilometre to get as much as possible and take some benefit from the situation. A good tactic yesterday, Sean. I thought you attacked it quite well yesterday, and it didn't actually catch everybody by surprise, but it did test everybody, test a few legs.
Well, I think it was an occasion, if you feel good in that final couple of 100 metres, that 400 metres especially, where it really kicked up, have a go. And you know, the stage victory was to play for, and if you get into the top three places, bonifications are so important, and as we always say, every second counts, and that could be the case at the end of this Giro in the final time trial. So he did a real good job yesterday, and you know, he's that style of rider where he needs to attack on a finish where it's difficult, 300-400 metres from the finish. He's not a one can wait on the last 100 metres, 50 metres, and then put in that sudden burst. He doesn't have that, so he tried to burn them off, you know, a bit further out with just continuous high tempo, and he almost did it yesterday with Tia Longo. He was the one who was clinging on for life on the wheel, and the rest of course lost a bit of ground. And a good show by Scarponi yesterday to be able to do that, and maybe again today they might try something here with Lampre, because if he's in good shape at the moment and he can take some seconds here and there on those stages without having to do too much of an effort, and yesterday wasn't a big effort for him, it was only 400 metres of a final burst to the line, and again today, it's, you know, if he can do something like that, maybe get away with a few more riders, but the finish today, the last 4 kilometres, that is going to be the problem. You know, if you get away on the steep part where it is possible to really break up and put some of the bigger favourites in difficulty, but then you have that 3.5-4 kilometres of flat on the plateau.
And he's capable of doing that. And he was not particularly good against the clock, we have to say, in the opening time trial, but seems to be riding into form. Scarponi likes it, just winds up a big gear all the time. He just grits his teeth and winds it up. He can't, as you say, have that explosive punch. There's Joaquim Rodríguez. Group of about 20-25 riders, including Mark Cavendish, being paced back to the peloton by Ian Stannard at the moment. There's the Cavendish group, world champion, having a little bit of trouble, but they're not too panicky at the moment because there's Stannard and Eisel. And we've got Alexander Kaczynski helping out at the front. The rest of the peloton are up ahead. I don't know what the time gap is, Sean. It can't be too massive because they're just rolling along at a decent pace to get back here, and they're not sort of really chasing the game.
No, they're rolling along, and I don't think they're really chasing to get back into the group. keeping it rolling, because the final climb they're going to lose, quite a lot of minutes there, and just keep the pace a good strong pace, and they only lose maybe 6-7 minutes, something like that, before the final climb, and then they're not under too much difficulty for the final climb either. And we can see here they're just rolling along, and they know that the time limit today, they've got to this point 36 kilometres to finish. The time limit is not going to be a major problem for them today, and as we know, the sprinters, they're just going to get in today with making the least amount of effort, conserve as much energy as possible, and the days to come, there's a number of days to come for the sprinters now, I think, get back in action.
The Goulers in there from Garmin, Rosler and Alex Rasmussen, both in that group. Surprised to see Sant'Ambrogio in there, he's a good little climber. Julien Berard, who was in the breakaway early on, is also in the Mark Cavendish group, having done his day and deciding that he'll just ride in with the others and save a little bit of energy. As Sean was saying, perhaps he thinks it'll be his day another day. 36 kilometres to go. The climb to the finish is 14.25 kilometres in length. Starts at San Francesco ai Foloni, bottom of the climb. But at the moment, we've still got this sort of up and down terrain. A lot of people just sitting in there and getting a bit of sustenance. They're already forming some buses here, Sean, as you've said. They're just going to make sure that they get home in time for not being kicked out the race, essentially.
Home in time for tea.
Exactly.
Yes, well, that's all about calculation again. We always talk about the calculation, the breakaway, and the teams who are controlling the front end of the peloton, and then there's the calculation as well for the difficult days where the sprinters cannot hold in and they get left out on the road 35-40 kilometres in the finish, and in the past it has been much further out, and we can see them there. They're just going to roll in now and get in comfortably and wait for other days to come. And not all the sprinters, as you said, there's a lot of rollers, domestiques there who will have a lot of work to do in the days to come, preparing the sprint for their main sprinters in the team.
Tour of Connemara is the sportive that Aino is doing.
Oh my God.
Will he not like that then?
Well, it should be like Brittany, except you have no shelter in Connemara at all. You haven't got a hedge, you've got stone ditches and lots of wind.
Yes, not sure whether you'll feel at home or not. So if you're riding a Tour of Connemara and it's bad weather and a bad day and Eno's not on a particularly good one, avoid him with the offer of a cup of tea at the end of it. I would.
And do not pass him. Stay in his wheel.
Yeah, offer him some help. You wouldn't even do that, just sit at the front. 3:18 and 34, just 35 kilometres still to go. They're riding well, these two, Sean. It looks as though they won't reach the final climb of the day with enough in hand, but they're still plugging on. Would you have been, if you were Julien Berard today, I presume you would have not been too happy with Amador and his tactics?
Well, it depends on how Julien Berard was feeling. I think if he was really getting tired and getting to the end of his strength, well then it's the least he wanted to start attacking at 50 kilometres in the finish. You'd expect a group of four to ride on together and keep on working and try and get to the bottom of the climb with the biggest advantage possible. And then the stronger man is going to come to the fore on the final climb. So maybe that's the reason he was saying, what's the tactic here? What's the point of attacking each other 50 kilometres to the finish? And I can understand why. And if you're starting to get tired and you're not able to go with these attacks and follow the guys, well then you really get peed off with that sort of tactic.
I bet you do. 3 minutes and 6 seconds problem here for, is that Meyer? Christian Meyer seems to have a problem. Back into the group, he gets pushed. He's not happy though. I'm not sure he's happy with the bike as it is. Might see him stopping again in a minute. Peloton definitely have sped up something rotten over the last 10 kilometers or so. There's the man with the red flag for unnamed blogger, means danger. Pick jersey at under 3 minutes now with 34 kilometers to go. It's Rubiano at the back of this group in the blue jersey. You can see him just in your shot there. Blue jersey of the mountains classification leader. And maybe feeling a little better than he did yesterday. I'm not surprised he was tired yesterday. Rubiano, though, his teammate, lost a couple of seconds or so, a handful of seconds yesterday, and I'm not sure today is going to suit him either. Certainly the middle slopes may well do, but maybe a bit too fast towards the end of the day. The Sky Rider still up riding in here. Cavendish there, main sprint boy, back in another group. There's Rubiano. Whoop. And it was Maya fell down, was it? Yep. Colliding with somebody, Maya. Just a touch of wheels ahead of him and going down. The man waiting for him to make sure he is okay was Daryl Impey, the South African rider. And now Garmin put a man on the front. Garmin Barracuda with the pink jersey on the shoulders of Ryder Hesjedal. 35 kilometers to go for Pozzato there and the rest of the main peloton. Two minutes and 41 seconds. 32 kilometers to go. Two men have been plugging away. There were four of them. Marcinski looking strong, Sean.
Yes, Marcinski has been strong, and he was the one I think that threw in the big attack when when the four-man group just blew to pieces, and we see Julien Berard, giving out there, wasn't happy, and he is very strong looking, and Amador, he's just riding away with him. He's looks, pretty relaxed there, but still I think he's in quite good shape. But again, 2:22 at the moment with over 30 kilometers to go. The problem, that gap is just not great enough to have any chance of holding on to the finish, and it's Amador who's the one who is, I think, caused the problem for the breakaway today, because at 1:16 in the general classification in 27th position, well, they were never going to allow this breakaway to take a big advantage in the earlier part, in the first 50% of the stage, and then they could go on and have enough of an advantage maybe to hold on, but it was never allowed because of Amador being so much of a danger man to take over race leadership.
Riding here. I was impressed with Sergio Henao yesterday. Once again, the best of the Sky finishes on a difficult uphill section. And this is the group containing Mark Cavendish, by the way. It's 6 minutes and 30 seconds down on the breakaway now. But Sergio Henao riding very, very well. He's kept himself very quiet. Not that many people talking about him, but he finished within 11 seconds. He was good in Trentino. He's been good all year so far. Seems to be the best of the climbers.
Yes, a real good position yesterday, and he's there very quiet. Nobody, really talking about him, and with the route in the final week, it will definitely suit him. And if he's got the form in the final week, well, he is a man who could do real well in the general classification. Again, the first week of racing has been good for him, so it will be interesting to see how he can fare in this final week of the Giro, as there's a number of other riders as well in that same position. They're not up there in the top favourites, but they're a little bit on the outsiders in that second row of favourites, and he is definitely the one on the performance yesterday, if he can keep that going.
2 minutes and 7 seconds. Mark Cavendish's group at about 6 minutes and 30, so they're just sort of forming this little bus they can get away in their own pace and make sure they get home inside the time limit. Colnago got two men up here as well. I don't think it's a Pozzovivo day, frankly, but who wouldn't put it past Stefano Perazzi to have another go today? I certainly wouldn't. I think it might suit him today, actually, Perazzi, but has he got anything left in the legs from yesterday? He decided he still finished fairly well up. 2 minutes and 34 seconds. 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 2 minutes and 34 secon But Pirazzi is just, as you say, Sean, you said earlier, once he goes, he goes. You can't control them. Valverde used to be a bit like that, actually. One man who didn't manage to get it yesterday was Joaquim Rodríguez. It was his birthday as well, so he'll be trying to make up for that. How is he today?
Por ahora, los favoritos son los que están.
At the moment, all the favourites are around.
Más o menos, Basso se le ve bien.
Basso isn't bad at all.
Kreuziger,
Scarponi, Kreuziger, Pozzovivo, they didn't lose too much time. Rojano seems to be in very good shape, but it's a bit far in the general classification. But he could be dangerous rider for all the rest of us. So Rojano, a little bit too far back in the general classification to be a danger to anybody. Sean, do you agree with that?
No, I don't agree with that, because when you look at the final week again, I know Lugano lost a bit of time yesterday, but nothing to worry him, because on the real difficult finishes where we have long climbs, 15 plus kilometres of climbing, very, very steep gradient, Lugano, he could take a lot of time out of the favourites, so I'd not count him out at all. And he is again definitely in there. He's following this race at the moment, and if he can get to the final week 2 minutes off the leadership, well, then he's definitely a big danger man as well. The big mountaintop finishes, that's where he will create a lot of problems for some of the big favourites, and he can just rump up them very steep climbs. A lightweight, a pure climber. They'll have to put more time into him, to get him out of a position where he's going to become a danger man the final week.
Yeah, I'm never quite sure about Rojano, because he can go fairly well on the less steep stuff as well, which is interesting. He's stronger than some of those pure climbers. He's much stronger than a Pozzovivo, for example, in those sort of situations. Today, I think Pozzovivo is going to struggle. He'll be right. And the bottom slopes, well, they go hard for a little bit, and then when it gets steep, he'll be absolutely fine. But then they'll really start to motor as they come towards and go over the top. And I just wonder whether he isn't going to suffer just a little bit. 27 kilometres to go, and everybody's still holding station, although they've really ramped the pace up at the front of the peloton. Just 2 men remaining from the original breakaway of 4, who were Julien Berard of AG2R Le Mondial. Bad luck, Jackie Durand. Desperately was hoping for an AG2R victory today. The first of the season it would be for them. First of the road season. Minguez from Euskaltel, he was tailed off as well. And the 2 remaining are the Costa Rican Andre Amador from Movistar, and Tomasz Marcinski of Vacansoleil. That's where they're heading. You can see this big plateau. And these 2 boys will be hoping to get there before everybody else, but I think they must know deep in their hearts that it isn't going to happen now. They do, of course, have radios. This is a World Tour event, so they can hang in there with the radios, and they will know that the gap's come down from, 5 minutes to 1 minute and 40 seconds, and they've still got 26 kilometres to go. So I'm always marvel at the way that they can keep up their motivation to keep going when they must know that, unless, I suppose there's always the possibility, Sean, isn't there, that something behind will A, either happen to the peloton, or B, they will all start marking each other, and there's always the very slimmest chance that you can stay away.
Well, there's always a chance, and I suppose there'll be a lot of things going through. The Marcinski looks very strong there. He's really pushing it on, and probably hoping that there might be some reason they slow down. Maybe if the farmer would have put a flock of sheep out on the road and blocked the peloton for a while.
Yeah, exactly.
But when you make the calculation here, it's going to be difficult, very, very difficult, and it has been looking like that for a long number of kilometres now. But Marcinski, he's pushing on, and he's in real good shape here. Amador is riding, but I don't think he's doing as much as his breakaway companion. And
I think he knows, and Marcinski's just got a bit more oomph. He got a bit more bit between his teeth.
Yes, he's more hungry, and he just wants to survive as long as possible. But as we go to 25 kilometres to go, 1:38. you need 4 minutes here to have the possibility of staying to the finish.
Yeah, one would think so. It's been a beautiful day today. Wind playing a bit of a part early on, splitting the group a little bit. All back together. At the front of the race, these 2 men remain from the breakaway. Marcinski, who I believe, did he not ride for Saxo Bank last year, Thomas Marcinski? Colnago pushing on here, Sean. This is an interesting tactic. Is this another day for Pirazzi, or are they just trying to keep the pace high enough for Pozzovivo to maybe have a little dig in that middle section? He must have known. I mean, his big hero was Marco Pantani, and he must know that Pantani, the sort of pure climber, couldn't stay away from Züller, the good climber and very good time trialist on this section. So that must be upwards in his mind.
Difficult to know what the tactic is. Maybe it's for Pirazzi. They see how well he's going yesterday, so maybe he's the leader to today. But they are looking to close down this one.
Yep, problem for Robbie Hunter stopping to change a wheel on somebody's back. Stethiner's, I think. Looked like a white jersey to me, Sean, so I would suggest having to stop and do a bit of work for Peter Stettiner there. That's not the place to be caught out. At least they've got some descent to try and get back on again. Robbie Hunter doing exactly the sort of job a good domestique should. They're always the first on the scene. They're often there way before cars, Sean, and he's given up his front wheel by the look of it for Peter Stettiner.
Yes, well, the way it's rolling along at the moment, and the section we're in as well, we can see here it's downhill, a lot of turning, a lot of bends here, so for the car to get up, of course, it will take a little bit of time, but again, the riders, when there's a teammate beside you, will then immediately just give the wheel, and it is that fraction faster to get moving again.
Back in the peloton. It wasn't Saxo Bank, it was the other Polish guy who was riding for Saxo Bank last year. Polsat, I think, is what Marcinski was riding for last year. Had a very good year last year, as well as the national championships. I don't know who the rider from NetApp is, but he doesn't like going around corners much. Not Hollenstein again, is it? Maybe he's feeling a little tired. No, I think it's Tiemann Schubert. Have a watch of him. There he goes. No, definitely got slightly square cornering technique, like a threatening bit there. On the flat, Marcinski second. In line here was with Polsat last year, and Andre Amador, Costa Rican. Only Costa Rican in the race. Marcinski is certainly not the only Pole in the race. Schmidt is there, Niemiec, Bodnar. Must have been Hesjedal. I thought it was a white jersey for a second, but it looks like Hesjedal's the man who's had the problem, Sean.
Yes, it looked to be a white jersey from the shot we had earlier, but it is Hesjedal, as we can see here.
Yeah.
He's just passed a number of cars there on the corner, and I think he's almost onto the rear end of this peloton.
Yep, he's almost getting back on now, Ryder Hesjedal. Little bit of a moment for him. Robbie Hunter stopping to give him a spare wheel as the Lampre car goes around the outside of him. So as he's amongst the cars almost, you'll see where the peloton is. Oh, he's still got some way. Oh, we got a little further than I expected, Sean. I thought he was a bit closer than that.
Yes, well, we can see those riders just after getting dropped off the rear of the peloton. That's caused a problem. The cavalcade of cars is split there, and the Commissar seems to be making the gap. Is it a group of Garmin Barracuda riders are waiting, or it looks like there's quite a few riders, so it must be riders that are just starting to lose contact here.
Yep, I'm surprised there isn't anybody with him. Obviously Hunter couldn't be with him because he gave up his front wheel. I'm surprised there isn't anybody here waiting for him to help out. And the pink jersey having to fly through the back of these riders, as you say, who've been dropped off here, Sean. That's a difficult, going to be a difficult little chase, and this might affect his abilities going up that last slope. Certainly the rest of the teams around and the main favourites, Scarponi, Basso and so forth, will know that Hesjedal in a little bit of trouble. There seems to be the increasingly blind eye being turned to the pacing back here. Finally, he's got one rider. Wants to take a bottle and get on with it. Wants to get up there now. That's somebody was asking to explain the sticky bottle the other day. He didn't get quite a shot of it there, but basically the sticky bottle that's Jack Bauer. The sticky bottle is the bottle that you get taken from the car, and they hang on to it for as long as possible as the car accelerates, and then they take it from the hand of the director sportive, thus accelerating them up towards the rear of the peloton or forward or whatever it happens to be. Yeah, a little bit of a chase. Not so bad now. They've caught up a tiny bit, but Hesjedal lucky to be able to get in amongst the cars and in behind his own Garmin Barracuda car there, Sean.
Yes, well, behind the car, it's much easier to follow in the slipstream of the car, and he got quite a bit of it there, and the commissars were pretty easy on him, because if the commissar starts to call over race radio, well, the car pulls away immediately. Otherwise, you're open to a fine, Swiss franc, and also some time penalty, and that's not what he needs, Hesjedal. So they allowed it because mechanically at a time when it was a difficult section, the race is going very fast, and the group is splitting. The rear end of the peloton riders getting dropped off, and for that reason, the cavalcade is broken up a bit. So he's going to have a little bit more to do there, because we could see there was another group in between that and the main peloton, but he seemed to be in the cavalcade of cars, so he should be back in the front end of the peloton pretty quickly.
Jack Bauer very cleverly using the corner trailing edge of the Movistar car, as riders are getting split around all over the place here. The pink jersey of rider Hesjedal having a problem. It's Roberto Ferrari who've just gone past. Hesjedal having a problem, having a front flat by the look of it, or something similar, and the wheel looked to have been given up by Robbie Hunter. That's what it looked like. Now he's got Jack Bauer pacing him up. I couldn't think of a better person to do it. But here he goes. Hesjedal. It is Stettner. It is Stettner after all. They've got the second graphic, got it wrong. Okay. So we thought it was Stettner to start with in the white jersey, and then they had him flagged up as rider Hesjedal. And it is in fact Stettner when you look down at it, but you can never tell with these cameras, and the pink flashes on it. Yeah, there we go. Okie dokie. Right, so we know it's Peter Stettner. Well, that's annoying when that happens, because you know you've got it right in the first place, and then they bring up another graphic, and then you think, was I right? And then back again you go. So right, Stettner it is. Who's it writing in? I can't even pronounce your name on Twitter. Somebody saying, my young wife says, what's a threepenny bit? Oh, come on, look it up. 50p piece. Looks like a 50p piece. That's what I meant. Corners like a 50p piece, i.e. not very round. Garate has been riding up well towards the front the last couple of days. Sean doesn't look very troubled. It's another man who may pull off a stage victory or good placing. A bit later on, that was Hesjedal back in there. They're showing us Hesjedal now in the front as an apology, I think.
Yes, Garate is riding well. We see him yesterday, and but he's a rider that's going to go for a stage victory. He's not going to do anything in the general classification. I don't think he's consistent enough. He always seems to lose a lot of time on some of the days when it's a difficult mountain stage, and the way he's riding at the moment, it's possible that we will see him going in a breakaway and having a go to get a stage victory. He's very much capable of that, and he's done it in the past in a lot of tours where he's took his moment, wait for his opportunity, and then get into a breakaway, and he can win from that situation.
There's Ryder Hesjedal. Peter Stedner is back in the group, right behind him in fact. Of course he has a blue helmet on as well, and Hesjedal in a pink helmet, so there we are. Bit of a worrying moment for Stedner, but good job by him, the car, and Jack Bauer getting back towards the front. John Gadry sitting in just behind the main contenders. Tiralongo second in line here, yesterday's stage winner, as you said, Sean. Back to doing domestique roles here.
Well, for the moment he's very much on the front, but not committing, and you see just hanging up around the front here. Will he be put into the role of pulling it here on the final climb if it needs to be? That we will have to wait and see.
Yeah, he should be able to. He's in good shape, and we know from the stage win yesterday he can hang on to the coattails of people. Oh, the catch is about to be made. Andrew Amador on one side of the peloton, Tomasz Marcinski on the other side. And with the peloton going at some speed now, not super fast, but quicker, will these guys be able to hang in there, or will they just drift backwards when it comes to the hill? We're almost upon it, Sean. 14.5 kilometers of climbing. It's not too steep at the bottom, but they're going to go hard into this one. They're already looking as though they're beginning to wind up here.
Yes, again, we see the teams here just appearing with the men they need to protect and the men they want to get into the bottom of this climb in a good position, and the speed just ups all the time as we get closer, and now at 17 kilometers we're getting very close, and it's a little bit easy on this one today because it has been difficult in the last number of kilometers, and we see the number of riders have been tailed off out of the rear end of the peloton. That says that it's been uphill, as we can see a rider having a fall here from Sky, is it? Or almost falling.
NetApp, one of the boys from NetApp. There might be another rider on the road as well, but seems to have lost it completely. Probably Harashki, I would imagine. Just colliding with the just in front of Rigoberto Urán, and plop down he goes. Back in the back. Oh, Daniel Shawn is what they have up. Average race speed 38.172.
$16 kilometers to go, and Astana looks to be taking it up once again. And is it just to get into the climb, keep their man for the general classification in a good position? Are they going to try something here? And that is the question. And there's so many teams with different tactics here, and but it is starting to speed up now. And as we get to this 15.6 kilometers, we're onto the climb very quickly, and it'll be interesting to see if we will see some of the riders that are not really in with a chance in the general classification. They will they will surely have a go here, and hopefully we will see some of those riders attacking early, because again, we could get onto the climb and it could be a lot of tactics and just looking at each other.
Right at the back of the peloton. They're really pretty much strung out now. 15 kilometers to go, and they're on really on it now. I'm going to drill it into the bottom of this climb, Sean. It really narrows down. You really have to be in a good position at this point. Looks like Astana have managed to keep Kreuziger in that sort of position, and also Basso. But because the road narrows, big problems if you get caught out halfway down the peloton here.
Yes, well, it's not the place to be halfway down the peloton, because you have to make the effort to move up. It's always real difficult, as you can see. The road is a bit narrower, and when it's going real fast, unless you have a number of teammates to do that for you, to take you to the front. And it's all about being able to get there as well. As we can see, the road is pretty well packed with riders on that smaller section, and there's not a lot of room to start moving up with ease.
No, absolutely not. We've had beautiful weather today, though, but most of the jerseys open to the waist. It's been very warm indeed. 14 kilometers to go there. Going to drill it now into the bottom of this climb at Lago Lacena. The last time we were here was in 1998. Alex Zülle won. Domenico Pozzovivo may suffer. We shall see. This is what he has to say about it.
What do you need to win the stage?
Innanzitutto c'è bisogno che non arrivi la fuga,
More than anything, of course, you need the breakaway not to go. If the breakaway has too much time, that I can't have a go for the stage. I hope that those teams fighting for the general classification will control the pace, and then not to attack too far out.
La conosco, l'ho provata.
I know the climb.
Quest'inverno è una salita.
I tried it this winter. It's not a long climb, but it's got a central part of it. It's well over 10%. Well, that's pretty much what's been happening today, really, Sean, isn't it? That the breakaway hasn't gone away. The teams who've got riders for the general classification, Mark Cavendish, Ivan Basso, and so on, are now controlling it at the front, and we know what the climb looks like.
And the only thing is, he needs his good legs.
The only thing he needs is good legs, and a bit of luck, I think.
Well, you don't need luck on the climb a lot. If you have the good legs, you can create the luck.
We're talking about here. The pace being pushed along by Astana at the front. They have Romain Kreuziger as their team leader, looking very, very good indeed. Tirolongo also in good shape, we've seen. Everybody seems to be in pretty good shape at Astana. Tirolongo taking the victory yesterday, and this is the sort of climb it is pretty much for 2/3 of it. Today it's a fast climb, and there'll be a lot of riders at this point, Sean. It's going to be when they kick up after the 6 kilometer mark that this one will get all strung out. Tirolongo with a big gear there. It's Gasparotto who's leading them up at the moment, and it'll be that 6k mark with about 7 kilometers to go, 8 kilometers to go, that they'll start to really make a difference. It gets very steep, and then we'll get the group whittled down to maybe 20-30 riders.
Well, there ain't any excuses today, because you have this section for 4 kilometres where it starts to kick up gradually, and then you get into the real steep section. So you cannot say, oh, I got a little bit of big legs in the beginning because we're on the flat, a very fast rate, big gear stuff. Here you get into the hill and you start getting into the rhythm of going uphill slowly, and then you get into the real steep section, and if you've got the good legs, well, then you can stay in here, or you can start thinking about attacking. So it's a really good climb, I think, and some riders, they can just come into a climb from a dead flat road of 40-50 kilometres and just go like with full gas right from the moment it starts to kick up. Other riders need a little bit of time to get into the rhythm, a couple of kilometres, and I think most riders prefer that. This climb today, I think everybody would prefer that style of finish, and there's not really an excuse. You have the legs in the good section. If the big battle starts in that section where it kicks up to 10%, well, then it's all about being in good shape and having the legs, and there's not a lot of excuses here today.
Not many at all. Can you see a situation where there will be a big attack in that section by anybody in particular? Try and get away? I can't see it particularly happening because the run into the finish is long and longish, 5 or 6 kilometres flat, or 4.5 kilometres flat, and it could be very, very difficult to get away. If you haven't got a big attack on you and can get a lot of time in that shortish section in the middle, 3.5 kilometres in the middle, it's going to be difficult to stay away from a group of 20 or 30 riders working together.
Well, the problem is when you get a rider or 2 riders out in front, and there's a number of the big favourites, and you get that 20 seconds of an advantage on the steep section. A lot of the time the big favourites, who's going to do the chasing? Because the one who do the riding, well then he's not going to get up in the final finish. And if there's only one rider away, they're always thinking, well, if I can just keep it cool here and wait and try and get second or third on the stage, I can get some bonification time at the finish. And it can work that way. So like if Pozzoviva, for example, if he can put in a big attack and immediately get 25 seconds on this steep section, then he has a chance of going to the finish, because there could be tactics played behind, and it's all about who will get away on the steep section. If there's a number of riders get away, who's up there, of course. If it's somebody they feel that's not a real danger man for the general classification. But if one of the riders, like if Scarponi goes in the steep section, well then all the big favourites will react, and they will have to react because they can't allow him to take more time again today in this stage.
Fascinating. You see, every single race is different, every single day is different. I know some people like an attacking, aggressive, incredibly difficult race because it has the spectacle on it. We get a lot of people on Twitter saying, oh, why aren't they racing? Why aren't they doing? They are racing. It's just a different tactic. Everybody's racing. Some people in real trouble here. It shows the pace is pretty high already, Sean, and I'm surprised Agnoli is going backwards here.
Yes, that is a surprise, because normally we would expect him to be staying up at the front with his teammates here, as we can see directly behind Astana, the 5 Astana riders. We have 4 riders from Liquid Gas, and Agnoli would be one of the ones which you'd expect him to be very much there at this point.
Very much so, but Astana, the massed ranks of Astana, with Tiralongo, yesterday's winner, just ahead of Roman Kreuziger. Gasparotto setting a good pace on the front here for Astana, which shows that it's not super steep, although he of course is a Classics winner already this year, but he's certainly setting a good pace, and if he's putting riders like Valerio Agnoli in trouble at the back, then that's showing that it's not super slow. It's not detonated yet, as we've said. Lampre got a couple of riders up towards the front. There must be Kuniga and Scarponi. But you never know until that moment arrives, Sean, in bike racing, do you? I mean, we can, even yourself as a great bike racing champion, you can just calculate, what are they going to do, and then suddenly somebody will do something completely different you didn't expect. It could be a huge attack by Basso, we don't know. It's just, you never know until it arrives.
No, you never know, and that's the great thing about bike racing. You just never know, what the tactics of the other big favourites are, what the other teams are going to do, and until it arrives. And the other thing is, you never know how good they are or how much they're suffering. And sometimes you can be in this group as a big favourite, you can be feeling suffering. You say to yourself, oh, I'm not good today, I'm going to have difficulty here, I could have problems, and but you still just fight on, you struggle on, you say to yourself, and I did, and a lot of times I said, when I was feeling bad, I would say to myself, the others must be feeling it also. They have to be feeling bad. It's warm, the weather is that heavy conditions. We've had a lot of difficult days in the warm weather, and I think everybody is tired. So you start telling yourself, that, you motivate yourself in that way. And sometimes it works, because when you're suffering here with 10 kilometres to go, you can be suffering a bit, and you're a little bit concerned. But then you get into the climb, and none of the big favourites really attack. They look at each other, and then you get to the finish and you lose no time, and you say to yourself, well, maybe my idea was correct, and they were also suffering a bit, and they also maybe suffering a little bit from fatigue.
The great man for that was Bernardino. He would say, look, if I would have started to hurt, I'd just pedal harder, because if I was hurting, everybody else was hurting. 2, 3, 4 riders ahead of Roman Kreuziger. For Astana, 4 men in the Liquigas colours for Ivan Basso. Basso, I think, is just becoming a little better each day. Doing a good job is Gasper on the front here. He's really having, I think, the best, well, he is definitely having the best season of his career, Sean, at the moment.
Well, he's had a really good beginning of season. I think in the Torino Adriatico he was also pretty aggressive, and you know, in the last number of weeks, of course, with the classics, he was in super shape, and he seemed to be carrying on that, and you know, he's setting a real strong pace here and on the front for quite a long time as he peels off now.
Yep. It's done a super job. So Gendt has taken over at the front. Kreuziger still with a fairly big gear on the left-hand side of your screen, just ahead of the Polish climbing domestique Sylvester Schmidt. And now we're into the steeper section here of this climb, and this is the point when somebody might just say, you know what, today's my day, and off they go. And immediately some of the more sprinting type rouleurs, the big strong men like Matteo Tozzato, then he managed to hang on to that point and gone completely out of the back now as it gets a little bit harder. And Marco Pinotti is now taken up station on the front here. That's interesting. Pinotti from BMC doing the riding on the front, which is, and I think he just found himself there actually, Sean, do you?
Yes, well, I think he just got an opening maybe and came up on left or right side and got himself into the front. Did a very short bit, as we can see. He's just peeled back again, and it's been interesting to see, can he just stay there in the second or third line, because that is the place to stay, where we can see Joaquim Rodríguez right in the centre there. Yes. That is a good place to be able to, you know, sit, and you're getting, you know, whatever little bit of drafting you can get on a climb, you're going to get it there. Where Basso sitting in second position, it's that little bit more difficult. It doesn't mean a lot when you're climbing, but still, if you can sit in the middle of a group and you can keep your position, it's all about being able to keep a position as well. It's the way to do it for the moment, because still with over 8 kilometres to the finish.
Uzbek champion, we've just seen dropping off the back a very brief glimpse of Jan Berkelands from Radio Shack Nissan. When we get a good overhead shot at the front of the peloton, we'll point out and give you the names and colours of all the riders. You can see some of them here. Sylvester Schmidt is the man at the front in that lime green. Polish, really good climber, has that very head up style of his. There's what Basso is in second place in the green of Liquigas. The first man in the pink and blue of Lampre is Michele Scarponi, the number 1 on his back. I think Jean Gadret was just up there. Wasn't quite seeing him, but Joaquim Rodríguez definitely up there in the red. There he is, you can see him, the red of Katusha with the white flashes on the arms. Damiano Cunego, another Lampre rider, just sitting in there. And Jose Rojano it is, number 21 I was looking at. Little tiny rider from Venezuela in the white. Pozzovivo in the sky blue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 back at the moment. Winner of Giro del Trentino on some vicious climbs. He's just ahead of Damiano Cunego. Then it looks like Herrada of Movistar with a big M on his back. And coming up to the front, the Pozzovivo just got an extra man with him. Brambilla, by the look of it. And Rodríguez just marking time here, Sean. He's sitting next, just behind Damiano Cunego. And I think it's Henio from Sky climbing up towards the front. And riders, bit by bit, being tailed off. But it's not, there's nobody really wanting to take control and attack here at all.
Well, of course, when you have a good rider like Sylvester Schmidt setting the pace, he's a real good climber, and he can set a real killer of a pace. And I think we're seeing the results of it. The rear of the group here is just blowing to pieces, and riders losing contact very quickly. and I don't think anybody will think of attacking for the moment with 7.6 kilometres to go.
So Peter Stettner suffering big time now. I'm not surprised because he had a bit of a chase on, trying to get back. Best young rider trying to get back into the peloton. Yep. Until we go back up to the front, we'll see who's come up to try this. Frank Schleck. Maybe this is a little bit further back. How far? No, it isn't. Schleck is there. Rigoberto Urán also there for Sky. Urán rapidly growing a mullet. Fantastic. Spot him easy enough. Schmidt sets the pace on the front. If you get a rider like Sylvester Schmidt getting to the front and setting pace, as Sean says, it's very, very hard for anybody to actually attack. And they're quite happy to sit in there. Scarponi looking good, sitting behind Basso. Has the chance to look behind him. Rojano climbing, but he always looks like laboured, doesn't he? It's Vivo and Brambilla from Colnago in the sky blue. The only red-clad rider in there towards the front, Joaquim Rodríguez. Does have to do it all by himself, there's no doubt about that. Frank Schleck sitting about 10 back in this group, and there's rider Hesjedal in the pink jersey, and looking as though he's suffering a little bit here, Sean. He's got just Visconti just behind him, and I don't think that's a good sign. He doesn't look as though he's very comfortable to me.
No, not at all comfortable, because when you come to the rear end of the group, like he's almost on the tail end of this group of 35 riders certainly, and it's not the position you're in as you would be in as a race leader, so he is surely suffering here.
Yes, indeed, as is this young man, Gianbattista, who we saw earlier. He's trying to hang on in there. Well, he's come back again a little bit as it flattens out. Visconti climbing well. There's Hesjedal. Well, at least he's in the main group. Maybe he's calculating, Sean, that nobody's going to go away over the top of this. And he's just going to hang on in there. But he seems to be very laboured. He has got that style, though. He never quite looks very comfortable when he's climbing.
Well, I think it's too much of a big risk to sit back here. If you're feeling good, you have to, stay up there on the top 15, 20 riders. Here, if there's an attack on the front, well, there's a lot of riders going to lose contact, and the gaps will be between groups. You'll have the first 25 riders maybe, or 20 riders, and then you'll have 2 or 3 riders, a gap of 10, 15 metres, and then another couple of riders. And that's very difficult if you're on the tail end of this 35 plus group.
Here we go, Pozzovivo. Pozzovivo takes the opportunity to go at this point. Tiny little rider that he is, and he's nervous that somebody's following him. Domenico Pozzovivo was in super shape during Giro del Trentino, and I think some of the big favourites might be a little worried about this, because if he starts to motor and get away, it's very difficult to get down the other side and keep going, because you've got 4 kilometres of a rush towards the finish. And we saw in Trentino just how much time he can lose. Schmidt, though, who was second to him on the day that he took the stage and up Valeno, will know that this man's climbing capability and peg the effort accordingly. Now, this may have an effect at the back of this little group, Sean, as if Schmidt ups the pace, ups the gas just a little bit to keep Pozzovivo in sight without shedding his team leader Basso, you'll have a whole raft of people going out the back end.
Yes, and also it depends on the tactic of liquid gas. Maybe with Sylvester Smith on the front, keep the pace good and high. Basso, I think he would like that. He doesn't like the sudden attack, slow down and attacking again. So if Smith can just keep a real strong pace going, I think that's what he will continue doing, and that would be the tactic of liquid gas. And if he can keep a real good pace, there's not a lot of riders capable of attacking. Pozzovivo, of course, he's a natural climber. You see the size of the guy. Like, he's tiny, he's a real lightweight, and in this steep section he can just attack, and even when it's going at a very fast pace, he can always just up the pace and pull away very quickly. But will he be strong enough to pull out enough of an advantage to hold on in the flatter section at the top?
Look at the gap he's got. That's a huge gap. Magnificent little attack by Domenico Pozzovivo.
Big attack.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'd say little attack because he's a tiny, really little chap. But he's just gone like the clappers up the road.
It's certainly a big one.
Schmidt knows all about this, though, because he had to try and peg this man back. But he had a huge gap when he went over the top of that devastatingly hard climb in Giro del Trentino, and in the space of about 4 kilometres, Schmidt took about 45 seconds back out of him, or more, just chasing him. He's not particularly good on the downhill, this is Pozzovivo. However, there isn't much downhill today, Sean. The question is, how much strength has he got to be able to continue motoring for the next 4.5 kilometres when he gets over the top here?
Well, it looks like that Sylvester Smith is putting on quite a strong pace all the time, because as we can see here in the rear of the bunch, Ryder starting to lose contact, and the race leader still in difficulty, just clinging on. Hesjedal really suffering here, and it's still going to a real strong pace in the peloton. So Pozzovivo, like, he's in his elements here. The steep section, that's where he's going to make hay and pull out a big advantage. Will he pull out enough to hold on? Will they ride after the steep section? Will they start looking at each other?
Ooh, attack coming in. It's Inchausti. Benyart Inchausti. Very good climb in his own right. Put hard effort in this one, and trying to get away now. Domenico Pozzovivo, his big hero was Marco Pantani as a little boy, and they're still relying on Schmidt to make the pace. There's a lot of tired riders here. Krunigo suffering here at the back. He's gone backwards from the head of this group, and he slipped right the way back, and I think actually Ryder Hesjedal is getting a little bit of recovery, Sean. He's getting that second win. Sometimes it happens, doesn't it?
Well, I think it's good for Hesjedal. He is suffering a bit, but the pace is being kept pretty, regular by Sylvester Smith. It is a very strong pace, and I reckon that Hesjedal is suffering. He's digging deep here, but if there were sudden attacks, that's where it would really put you into difficulty, put you into the red if you're not feeling good. So Hesjedal is defending real well here, and he's getting to the section now where it will ease off a bit, and if he gets over the steep section, well, then he should be able to cling on to this group in the final 3.5 kilometres.
Schmidt leading them still. Passo within this group just behind him. They're very keen to control the pace as per usual. Liquigas, Scarponi happy at the moment. Passo's in second spot, and this is Domenico Pozzovivo, who's 5 kilometres to go. This is a tiny little section of downhill, and then they get onto the flat. Don't fancy the chances of Pozzovivo if Inchausti manages to catch him, and he isn't that far behind, Sean, here. Some riders coming back off the back hip. Yes, out the rear door, as they say, and it's going to be game over for these guys. But Inchausti, I think, on the final run in, he will be the stronger one. If he can, keep Pozzovivo in his sights and keep him at maybe 15 seconds, 20 seconds, then he should be able to pull back that, as we see Inchausti at 29 seconds, and then the group at 45 seconds. So it's a nice advantage for Pozzovivo, but Inchausti should be able to finish well on the final bit, because he's the stronger rider. I think for time trialling, Inchausti will be the stronger one, as both of them are in alone on the road. They are indeed. I think Inchausti is making some inroads now into Domenico Pozzovivo's time. Will we see him appear around the corner in just a second? Schmidt's done a super job at knowing exactly the measure of this man, which is about I was going to say about 4'11", but that's very unfair. He knows exactly how good this young man, Domenico Pozzovivo, is. The question is, has Inchausti got enough gap over everybody else? I think the peloton has begun to wind up the power behind, and Inchausti is dying a death here. He's really suffering. All he needs to do is to get over the top here, Sean, and then you can start motoring. If you ever see those shots, or remember those shots of Alex Zülle at this point, this is the point where Zülle went just up full gas, over the top, and away he went. That beautiful, wonderful style he had. Very stylish rider. And of course, Zülle, very strong in time trialling, and it plays to the advantage of that type of rider then. And when we get into this section, we're getting to at the moment, Inchausti is really digging deep there. We could see a lot of movement on the bike, his shoulders all over the place, but when he get over this, he could get into a good rhythm and should be able to plug back the advantage of Pozzovivo. There he is, Pozzovivo. And Inchausti will be chasing after him. Let's see exactly what the gap comes down to, because Pozzovivo himself has admitted that when it comes to descending, I mean, it's not much of a descent here, but when it comes to descending, he often starts at the back of the group he's in because he gets fed up with being ridiculed for his bike handling. So he doesn't want to be around anybody. He's still got a major advantage over Benyat and Charsti, 22 seconds. Coming up to the 3 kilometer to go banner for Domenico Pozzovivo. Is holding the gap at the moment, it appears, at 22 seconds. I wouldn't be surprised if that comes down a little bit. Frank Schleck getting a bit of a motorbike tow, and why not? If you wave to the camera, Frank, you'll get away with it. But they all know they have to shut this down. Pozzovivo may only be a tiny little chap, but if he's in this sort of form, Sean, come the last week of this Giro d'Italia, he could be very dangerous indeed. So they don't want to let him get away any further.
No, they're not going to allow him to take a big advantage, and we can see this on the front of the bunch. It's still the liquid gas riders who are controlling it, and it's here where the group, if they start to push on a couple of riders, 3-4 riders, and if there's another team get involved here, then they could eat into this advantage very quickly. But still, coming to almost 2 kilometers to go for Pozzovivo, it looks like that he's possibly going to hold on.
Look, Brambilla trying to disrupt things there, having a bit of a shoulder battle with Frank Schleck, who's trying to organise people in the line. He wanted to get in behind the liquid gas boys, and Brambilla wouldn't let him. And Ryder Hesjedal looking across to him. Brambilla, teammate of this man, trying to disrupt the chase, trying to make it a little bit more awkward for them to track down this man. But he's pulling, I can't believe he's putting out a gap over in Charsti. That is unusual. 42 seconds ahead of the pink jersey. I don't know about you, Sean, but if I was the pink jersey group or any of the favourites, alarm bells would be ringing now.
Well, I think Liquid Gas are, doing what they can do at the moment. They have been riding all of this climb, and it'll be interesting to see now on this flatter section, can they pull back a bit of this advantage that Pozzovivo has got. 42 seconds, it is a lot, and 23 seconds in Charsti. I thought he would eat into the advantage of Pozzovivo very quickly, but we can see that he can see him in his sights, but again, like, he's coming close to the kilometre to go. I don't think he's going to be able to catch Pozzovivo, and in Charsti still have a good advantage over the big group of big favourites, although you can see they are really finishing strong at the moment.
Under the kilometre to go banner for Domenico Pozzovivo, who attacked on the steepest part of the Lago Laceno climb and has gone over the top, unlike his great hero Marco Pantani, to take a stage victory. The little climber from Colnago CSF Inox looks as though he's going to be unstoppable, because Benyat and Charsti of Movistar, the only man who could get anywhere close to him, hasn't made any impact at all. He's burying himself now to stay away from the peloton. I think he's going to get second, but he's not going to catch this man, who's rolling over a great big gear. And I think he realises that's the only way of doing it. He's got some momentum going, and the only way to keep going is to keep that momentum.
He's got some power, because we could see that he must be in the 13 or the 12 or 11, but he's very close to his last sprocket, and a 53, 12 or 13, whatever he's using here, because it's still going very slightly uphill. He's really, finishing strong here.
Well, this is his day. He had a fantastic Giro del Trentino. To be fair, Giro del Trentino was perfectly made for this man, but winning it has given him an enormous amount of confidence, one would suggest, coming into this year's Giro d'Italia. He's no stranger to the Giro d'Italia, but this is a very fine victory for Domenico Pozzovivo, holding off in Charsti and holding off the peloton. And what is the gap now? This is the question. 6:06:05 is the time in Charsti. He started the day at 51 seconds back. This is the other thing as well. He's pushing as hard as he can now. They're winding up for the sprint. He's not going to take the pink jersey, but he gets 12 seconds as well. 22:33 seconds is the disadvantage now to the pink jersey, and Hesjedal had to fight hard to stay in that group in the end. But Domenico Pozzovivo started at 1 minute and 42 seconds. He's taken his stage victory. That's great for him. Threaten the big mountains at the end of the week, Sean?
Well, you'd not be expecting to take a stage victory here, because this finish, we had a difficult section in the middle, but then that final 3.5-4 kilometres to hold on. But he did an unbelievable attack, because in the steep section he just rode away, and so quickly he pulled out 10-15 seconds of an advantage, 20 seconds of an advantage. He is going to be definitely a danger man if he stays in this position coming to the final week.
It's Moreno leading this group home. And Stefaner in this group losing some time, but he had a bit of a problem earlier today, about 25 kilometres out. Seemed to have a front puncture that Robbie Hunter gave him the wheel for. Once again, another stage that's proved a little bit more difficult than I would have expected, or for some of them, Sean. There's lots of groups on the road here. Grosjean comes in.
Yes, well, it's caused a lot of trouble for some of the riders, but the big favourites, I think, they're all pretty much there. We could see the group, it's roughly about 25 seconds I calculated. They were down on Pozzovivo. The sprint, it looked like Joaquim Rodríguez or a Vacansoleil rider, and Thomas de Gendt was actually there in the final kilometres. I could see him in the steep part. He was there at the very end of it. It looked like Rodríguez was edged out to get the third place and some time bonification.
Domenico Pozzovivo takes the win here